Chapter 2453. Mu Yan shivered when she heard the words devastatingly beautiful army and goddess Yan Yan. She couldn't wait to rush over and smash Xiao Yunchuan's head. How come this guy has become so sickening after leaving the Woodfern secret realm? Unfortunately, the devastatingly beautiful army behind Xiao Yunchuan didn't find it sickening at all. Instead, they all showed expressions of approval. Chinde took a step forward, his expression gentle, but unquestionable. We don't ask for much. Anyone from your Liangqin army who has insulted God Jun must apologize in front of everyone in the reincarnation square. This matter will be written off. Victory and defeat in the upcoming pill competition will depend on your own ability. If you can't even do this. Before Chinde could finish, Elegant Bro had already stopped himself. You want the person who insulted God Jun to apologize. I, your father, want the person who insulted God Yi to apologize. Don't tell me that none of you have ever insulted God Yi. Sister Hua sneered. Pfft. What God Jun? Immortal Fairy Qingwan. That woman is obviously not a good person. She's a whore, repeatedly trying to frame our God Yi. What's wrong with us insulting her? I still want to tear up that ugly face of hers that pretends to be ugly. If you have the ability, then come and kill this old lady. Do you really think our Liangqin army is afraid of you? Xiao Yunchuan and the others' expressions turned cold. Their expressions were filled with anger and killing intent. Many of them had entered the Woodfern secret realm and survived through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Even if martial arts were prohibited in the Tianguang ruins, the powerful pressure they released was enough to make the surrounding people pale. For the first time, there was no smile on Xiao Yunchuan's face, which had always been frivolous. Instead, there was only the coldness of a superior. Well, since it doesn't work, don't blame me for using force to oppress you. Ever since I left the Woodfern secret realm, I've sworn that anyone who goes against Mei Yanyan is going against me, Xiao Yunchuan. Your Liangqin army and the old master's #1 under heaven shop, are you ready to bear the wrath of my Xiao family? And the Green Tooth sect? And the Wind Sword sect? In an inn not far from the old man is #1 in the world shop. Ling Qingwan and Lu Yu sat facing each other. Looking at the commotion over here, the corner of Ling Qingwan's mouth hooked up into a mocking smile. That slut Jun Mayan really has a lot of supporters. However, they were also very easy to deceive. He only showed a slight sign of weakness in front of them, frowned, and expressed the grievance of being insulted and bullied. Without hesitation, they rushed to the front and became his lackeys. Ha, a bunch of brainless idiots. Ling Qingwan retracted her gaze and happened to see Lu Yu's drooling expression. She immediately frowned and revealed a disgusted expression. Lu Yu wiped his saliva and said with a flattering smile, Celestial Fairy Qingwan, don't worry, we've already arranged everything. The signature that Dong Yulong obtained is in our hands now. As long as we hand it over, this Yi Liangqin won't even have the chance to participate in the pill competition. What's more, so what if she can participate? How could that ugly half-baked monster's level compare to Immortal Fairy's godly alchemy talent? As the saying goes, flattery doesn't work. Even though Ling Qingwan loathed Lu Yu and looked down on her, she felt as if she was walking on air at this time. Chapter 2454. She smiled faintly and said, when those idiots from the city-toppling army make their move, all of you follow them immediately. Use Liangqin's army as bait to snatch the Herb King's inheritance from Yi Liangqin's hands. As long as you handle this matter well, I guarantee that I will win back the champion of the pill competition for Marquis. Lu Yu grinned and reached out his hand to caress Ling Qingwan's hand that was resting on the table. He said in a smooth voice, this little one understands. To be able to serve the immortal fairy is a lowly one. Impudent. Ling Qingwan ruthlessly slaps him. Who do you think you are? How dare you touch me? Get lost. Don't let this empress see you. Lu Yu left in fear and trepidation. However, when he turned down the stairs, he turned around and looked towards Ling Qingwan's direction, revealing a greedy and sinister smile. He, the high and mighty immortal fairy. I, Lu Yu, love to train and domesticate such prey. After chasing away Lu Yu, Ling Qingwan's gaze once again shifted downwards. Seeing the tense atmosphere in front of the #1 shop in the world, the disgust in his heart was replaced by delight. At this time, Lu Xingze, the owner of the floating life pavilion, had also rushed over. He stood beside Xiao Yunchuan with a cold and stern expression, and said in a clear voice, "If Liang Chen's army doesn't apologize to the great god Jun, then my floating life pavilion will launch an all-out attack on the old master's #1 under the heaven store in the Tianguang ruins from today onwards." The businesses related to the Floating Dreams Pavilion would never supply any goods to Liang Chen's army. You'd better think carefully about the pros and cons. In front of the old master is the best in the world store. All the soldiers of Liang Chen's army gritted their teeth and looked humiliated and angry. Xiao Yunchuan stepped forward. His eyes were cold and his voice was powerful. Make your choice. Do you want to apologize or bear the anger of our magnificent army? I have no intention of threatening you, but if you refuse to negotiate, then I, Xiao Yunchuan, swear that I will make your Liangchen army disappear forever. Before he could finish his words, he suddenly felt a pain in his abdomen, and his whole body flew out, landing heavily on the ground. God Yi! God Yi is here! Seeing the young girl slowly walking out from the crowd, Liang Chen's army cried tears of joy. No matter how difficult the situation was, it seemed that as long as this girl was there was no difficulty that could not be solved. There was no miracle that could not be born. In their most desperate and humiliating moments, this person whom they trusted wholeheartedly would always appear in time and never let them down. Xiao Yunchuan cuts a sorry figure as he gets up from the ground. He coldly looks at Mayan. However, Xiao Yunchuan frowned as he took a closer look. The young girl's appearance was ordinary and delicate, leaving no impression on others. But those eyes were as bright as stars, with a hint of indifference, laziness, and charm. There was also the disdainful and indifferent temperament that shrouded the young girl, which always gave Xiao Yunchuan an inexplicable sense of familiarity. The anger that had surged into his heart had unknowingly dissipated by more than half. He tidied up his clothes, took 2 steps forward and said, "You are Yap Liangqin. Trying to put this young master in his place. Interesting, do you know that this young master is?" The last word, "Hoop," had not left his mouth. Xiao Yunchuan's head had already been pressed to the side. "Get up, I'm not interested in talking to you." Even if you used your knees to think, you would know that Xiao Yunchuan was obsessed with looks. He only looked at the face. Chapter 2455. What's the use of reasoning with him? Just think about how this fellow followed Su Lui and listened to her every word. Xiao Yunchuan staggered and almost fell. After he straightens up, he doesn't fly into a rage out of humiliation. Instead, he looks at Mayan with a puzzled expression. Why was the feeling of being kicked aside in disgust so familiar? Moreover, he didn't feel angry at all. Instead, he felt satisfied. Xiao Yunchuan shuddered. What was wrong with him? It was one thing for him to enjoy being beaten up by a beautiful woman, but he actually felt good when a faceless ugly freak disliked him so much. At this time, Mu Yan is not in the mood to pay attention to the tangled Xiao Yunchuan. She stood in front of Lu Xingze and went straight to the point. Were you the one who suppressed Liang Chen's army during this period of time? Before coming to Tianguang ruins, Mu Yan had already learned from Chu Tianyu. During this period of time, the various sects and clans of Liang Chen's army, as well as their businesses in Tianguang ruins, had all suffered varying degrees of attacks. The reason was that the owner of the Floating Dreams Pavilion, Lu Xingze, was suppressing these people from behind. Lu Xingze's family could only be considered second or third-rate in the Purple Cloud realm. However, their clan had been in the Tianguang ruins for many years. They had deep influence and wide connections. Many of Yap's supporters had been standing behind her since she was in the stage of fasting. His own strength and background were not that great. Therefore, such a blow was already a deep wound to them, and they were in unspeakable pain. Lu Xingze unconsciously took a step back when he met the girl's clear and cold eyes. When he came back to his senses, he was secretly annoyed that he, a peak-stage, nascent soul cultivator, was actually weak in front of the little girl. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "I am indebted to the great god June. As long as it is her wish, I will find a way to fulfill it. As long as they humiliate or hurt her, I will not let them off." "Yi Liangqin, I know you are powerful." Mu Yan frowns and directly interrupts him. "When did June Mu Yan do you a favor? Why didn't she remember knowing this person?" Lu Xingze subconsciously replied, "God June saved my fiancé's life in the Woodfern secret realm." As soon as the words left his mouth, he was stunned. Why should he obediently answer this girl's question? Moreover, Yi Liangqin sounded like he was very familiar with June Mayan. Mu Yan originally wanted to ask who his fiancé was, but after thinking about it, she decided against it. She had saved too many people in the Woodfern secret realm, so how could she possibly remember all of them? So he directly says in a low voice, "Since you said June Mayan is your benefactor, then why can't you even recognize whether your benefactor is real or fake?" His gaze swept across and fell on Xiao Yunchuan, Chen De, Li Xiuxiu, and the others. Her brows slightly go up, looking at them like she's looking at idiots. "It's fine if you can't recognize whether it's the real Mayan or not, but can you guys also not recognize it? Being played round and round by a scheming woman. If I were June Mayan, I wouldn't want to admit that you idiots are her supporters." In a split second, the whole audience was engulfed by crows and birds. Silence. After a long time, someone stammered, What do you mean? Does great god Ye's words mean that June Qingwan isn't the devastatingly beautiful slaying Lord Mayan at all? How is this possible? Immortal fairy Qingwan's appearance is clearly the same as great god June's. Have you all forgotten that you can change your appearance in Tianguang ruins? Chapter 2456. By the way, do any of you remember that whether it's the Azure Blue World or the Dragon Soaring Academy, there are rumors that Yi Liangqin and the Xiaoyao 7 are close friends? The evidence is that every time Yi Liangqin massacred the list, it was to support the Xiaoyao 7. This time, Lu Xingze, Xiao Yunchuan, Chen De, and Xu Yong are all dumbfounded. Not far from the restaurant, Ling Qingwan sees this scene and crushes the cup in her hand. Yi Liangqin, this slut. She dares to question Mayan's identity. What right does this slut have? Ling Qingwan can no longer hold back and is about to jump down from the restaurant. But Lu Yu's greasy voice comes to her ears, "Don't panic, Xianji. How can these words shake your status?" As soon as Lu Yu's voice falls, someone from the fallen city army below laughs, "Don't joke. Yi Liangqin, you speak as if you are familiar with God June. If you want to prove that Qingwan Xianji is not God June, it's very simple. Let God June come to Tianguang ruins himself, won't it be clear?" Ling Qingwan's heart loosens when she hears this, and her face shows a determined smile. Sure enough, the crowd below that was originally intimidated by Mayan support becomes restless again. Among them, Lu Xingze's reaction is the most intense, "Don't make irresponsible remarks. If Qingwan Xianji is not God June, then who is it?" The top of the 10th grade coiled dragon list suddenly changed hands. In the entire Shuzhen continent, which famous alchemist can match it? Who can reach the top of the coiled dragon list at such a young age and in such a short time? Only the omnipotent god June can do such a miraculous thing. Yi Liangqin, although you are called a king and a crazed demon, you still have a long way to go if you want to trample god June under your feet. Ling Qingwan's tense expression relaxes. She looks at Lu Yu with some approval in her eyes. This disgusting dog wasn't useless after all. Lu Yu licked his lips and lowered his eyes to conceal the greed within them, and he said with a smile, "Immortal fairy, now that the situation has turned around, it's time for you to make a dazzling entrance and crush Yi Liangqin with your reputation and beauty to deal a lethal blow to them." Lu Xingze was speaking passionately and indignantly. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from behind. "Great God June! Great God June has arrived!" All the members of the magnificent city army turned their heads in unison, only to see a lady dressed in exquisite and luxurious clothes descending from the sky like a fairy, landing in front of everyone. The woman was a stunning beauty with a cold and arrogant expression. She was wearing the most expensive rainbow feather raiment in the Tianguang ruins, which made her already gorgeous features look even more exquisite and charming. Many of the soldiers from the overwhelming charm army were stunned. Some people couldn't help but drool. Lu Xingze immediately returned to his senses. He strode over to Ling Qingwan and bowed in salute. "Great God June, why have you come in person?" Ling Qingwan's expression was arrogant. She slightly raised her chin and lightly said, "I heard that someone questioned my identity." "How could that be?" Lu Xingze quickly said, "Who would dare to impersonate the name of God June? Without sufficient strength, who would have the qualifications to impersonate? Liang Chen's army was merely suppressed by us and wanted to divert our attention." Ling Qingwan ignored Lu Xingze and walked towards Yap Liangqin. Chapter 2457. Ling Qingwan sneered, "You're saying that I'm pretending to be June Mayan. Then, where is the real June Mayan? Don't tell me that you, Yi Liangqin, are June Mayan." This sentence caused the crowd to roar with laughter. Does this Yi Liangqin have any idea what's going on? God June's nickname is Alluring Killer. How can his face be called alluring? Pfft. I think he's just jealous of our God June's beauty. Even if it's a competition of strength, do you think our God June will lose? No matter how powerful Yi Liangqin is, he's only a golden core cultivator. Does our God June care about that kind of thing? Yi Liangqin is so arrogant. If he's that good, then fight with our God June in real life. God June overturned a nascent soul cultivator and an astral body cultivator in a secret realm. If Yi Liangqin can take 10 moves from him, I'll respect him for that. The crowd burst into laughter. His dismissive attitude and insulting words caused Liang Chen's army to grit their teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. Ling Qingwan's face showed a sarcastic and carefree smile. The humiliation of being bullied by Yi Liangqin during this period of time had all turned into glory at this moment, and it had returned to her. After that, she would make Yi Liangqin suffer even more. She would make him suffer 10 times or even 100 times the pain that Yi Liangqin inflicted on her. Ling Qingwan didn't realize that while she was being arrogant and the army was being bewitched by her, there were a few people watching her coldly. However, there were a few people who were looking at her coldly from the side, revealing suspicious expressions. Chen De frowned slightly and didn't say anything. Instead, he chose to communicate using the language of Tianguang ruins. "I didn't realize it before, but after hearing what God Yi said, I also feel that this June Qingwan is a bit strange. I don't think she's like our boss." Xu Yong said, "Boss June doesn't like to talk nonsense, but he's not arrogant either. She saw us but didn't even greet us. It's really not like our boss." Li Xiuxiu said, I didn't dare to say it before. I thought it was just my imagination. Boss June used to make me feel so comfortable. Even if it was just a little, I still felt that he was taking care of me. But this June Qingwan, she's always so condescending. I don't like her. I don't think she resembles June Emosia at all. Xiao Yunchuan frowned as he listened to the conversation between Su De and the others. His gaze fell on Ling Qingwan's picturesque face, and he suddenly felt that it was somewhat fake. It was just like those people in Tianguang ruins who had their looks enhanced by 100%. They were obviously beautiful, but they were so beautiful that they had no soul at all. It made him look like he was chewing wax, and he had no interest in pursuing it at all. However, Mayan had never given him such a feeling back in the Woodfern secret realm. Xiao Yunchuan was completely attracted by the girl at first sight. He wished he could crawl on the ground and worship her gorgeous beauty. This June Mayan, in the Tianguang ruins, didn't give him the slightest bit of that kind of infatuation that could shock even the soul. Xiao Yunchuan narrowed his eyes as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Could it be that someone really dared to impersonate Mei Yanyan? Under the aggressive gazes of the devastatingly beautiful army and Ling Qingwan, Mayan curled her lips and smiled softly. Immortal fairy, you really think too highly of yourself, don't you? Aren't you afraid that I'll discuss myself if I pretend to be you? Chapter 2458. I remember that it's only been half a month since the last time you clambered in front of my shop, right? Hee hee, have you already forgotten about being publicly slapped in the face so quickly? What, you didn't have enough last time, so you want to learn from Dong Yulong and let me slap you a few more times? Ling Qingwan burst out in anger, impudent. The soldiers of the fallen city army were also furious. Yi Liangqin, don't go too far. Do you think that we don't exist? How dare you humiliate the great god June in front of us? Yi Liangqin, you bitch. When it comes to fighting and alchemy, how can you compare to the great god June? Do you think you're invincible just because you got the title of list slaughtering demon? That's just because our great god June doesn't want to compete with you. Ha, that's right, if the great god June wants to compete, who can compete with him? Even the top rankers of the pill competition can't compare to the great god June's 10th grade coiled dragon list, okay? Mu Yan chuckled as she listened to the shouting and cursing. As long as Mu Yan wants to compete, she can become the top ranker. Trample Yi Liangqin under her feet. Lu Xingze said angrily, what? You're not convinced? Then go and see who's at the top of the coiled dragon list, wake up. Do you really think that you're invincible? Mu Yan's smile deepened, and she said unhurriedly, I admit that I, Yi Liangqin, can't trample Mu Yan under my feet. Ha ha ha, now you're afraid. Admitting defeat. What were you doing earlier? What bullshit, king, he's nothing in front of our great god June. Ling Qingwan's face showed a carefree smile. However, at this time, the girl's heavenly voice sounded again, then, if I trample this woman under my feet, does that prove that she's not Mu Yan? The laughter of the audience stopped abruptly. Ling Qingwan's complacent smile also froze. Lu Xingze frowned, Yi Liangqin, what do you mean by that? He hadn't finished speaking when Xiao Yunchuan suddenly stepped forward and said with a smile, Fairy Qingwan, although we all believe that you're the real god June. But in the end, it's not enough to convince Liang Chen's army. As a result, June Mo's splendid military exploits have a stain on them. Don't you think so? Without waiting for Ling Qingwan to speak, Xiao Yunchuan immediately continued, I think Yi Liangqin's idea is not bad. In our eyes, June Mo is invincible. Whether it's beauty, fighting, or alchemy, as long as she wants to, she'll be the king. Everyone, don't you agree? This sentence, no one refuted. The crowd below responded in unison. Those who had experienced the Woodfern's secret realm, seen the battle between Team Carefree and Team Qilin, and witnessed her defeating a nascent soul cultivator with her Bixia cultivation, would never doubt her invincibility and strength. Yap Liangchen was an all-rounder. Wasn't their great god June the same? Ling Qingwan was infuriated when she heard the shouts. Who does that slut Mu Yan think she is? She's always high and mighty. Being trampled under Yi Liangchen's feet means that I'm an imposter. Doesn't this logic mean that in these people's hearts, I'm inferior to that slut Mu Yan? However, despite her anger, Ling Qingwan didn't feel that she would be trampled under the feet of a mere mortal like Yi Liangchen. She sneered and looked at Mu Yan. Good. I want to see how you're going to trample me under your feet. Chapter 24:59. Mayan said unhurriedly, so, you agree with me? As long as I step on you, you will admit in public that you're not Mayan. Lu Yu, who was following behind Ling Qingwan, frowned and stepped forward to stop her. Unfortunately, Ling Qingwan was too confident in herself and said without hesitation, all right. But what if you can't do it? Her rising dragon elixir was infinitely close to a king elixir. Its purity has reached 91%, which is rare even in the Shushan continent. Yi Liangchen is a mere mortal. It's simply a joke if he wants to beat her in a short time and become the top of the coiled dragon list. Mayan's eyes were deep as she said slowly, if I can't do it, then I will withdraw from the pill competition. Ling Qingwan smiled sinisterly. Withdrawing from the pill competition is not enough. If you can't do it within 3 days, then hand over the Medicine King's inheritance to me. It's a deal. Mayan smiled, turned around and walked towards the direction of the reincarnation square. Several pills appeared in her hand, and she lightly tossed them in the air. Everyone in front of the lousy number 1 under the heavens shop looked at each other in dismay. Soon, someone exclaimed and reacted, Yi Liangchen is going to climb the coiled dragon list. Yi Liangchen is going to take the top of the 10th grade coiled dragon list. This news swept through the entire Tianguang ruins in a short period of time like a hurricane. In an instant, all the cultivators were swallowed up. They all gathered in the reincarnation square. Didn't Great God Yi just learn to refine 7th grade pills? How can she refine 10th grade pills so quickly? Is she even human? Fight for the top of the 10th grade list. Ha, what a joke. Right now, the top of the coiled dragon list is Great God June. I don't believe that Yi Liangchen can step on the alluring killer god. Brother, your news is too slow. Just now at the entrance of the lousy number 1 under the heavens shop, Great God Yi already said that June Qingwan is not the alluring killer god Mayan. She's an imposter. She climbed the coiled dragon list to step on June Qingwan and confirm the fact that she's an imposter. The crowd was in chaos. Everyone was waiting for a result. Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes were glued to the light screen on the reincarnation square that represented the ranking of the coiled dragon. They didn't blink at all, fearing that they would miss something. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "Ah, it's changing, look." Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing and soon found a familiar name on the 28th position of the coiled dragon leaderboard. Rank 28, Yap Liangchen, 107,600 points, appraised a grade 10 antidote pill. The square was silent for a moment before bursting into laughter. 28th. You're not even in the top 10, yet you're saying that you want to trample the great god June under your feet. Ha ha ha, you're making me laugh to death. Ling Qingwan's eyes shone with a fiery light. The Medicine King's inheritance would soon be hers. However, at this moment, someone cried out in surprise. Wait a moment. Look, the coiling dragon list has changed again. Everyone looked up and realized in shock that Yap Liangchen, who was ranked 28th just now, had risen to 12th place. 212,000 points, appraised a grade 10 antidote pill and a grade 10 vitality fortifying pill. The people who were just mocking Yap Liangqin were dumbfounded for a moment. Chapter 2460. Fuck. 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 She rose again. She's 8 this time. Ling Qingwan's greedy smile froze. He stared at the coiled dragon list and murmured, "Impossible. Impossible. There's no way she can surpass me." The originally noisy plaza was engulfed in silence. All of a sudden, there was dead silence. Only heavy breathing could be heard from every corner of the plaza. Only when the dazzling name on the light screen changed again would these gasps be replaced by cries of surprise. 5th place. Fuck. She's in the top 3. Ah. She surpassed Master Su Qingling. She's in 2nd place. Oh my god. This is the 10th grade coiled dragon list. Is Yi Liangqin really going to reach the top in one day? Ling Qingwan's forehead was dripping with sweat. On the screen of the coiled dragon list. 1st place, Ling Qingwan, 869,500 points. 2nd place, Yi Liangqin, 683,000 points. The difference between the two was less than 200,000 points. Ling Qingwan's mouth twitched. She won't surpass me. She won't surpass me. I'm the true king of alchemy. I'm the moon that everyone revolves around. Yi Liangqin's army held their breaths, clasped their hands together, and prayed silently. The fallen city army's mood was a lot more complicated. Everyone, including Lu Xingze, had the same thought. If Jun Imo Xie were to be trampled underfoot, would he still be the same Jun Imo Xie in their hearts? Yi Liangqin said she was an imposter. Was that true? However, after that, the reincarnation square was silent. Someone exhaled and smiled. It seems that God Yi is powerful, but he's still not as good as immortal fairy Qingwan. The 1st place of the coiled dragon list is still, boom. Before this person could finish speaking, the entire Tianguang ruins shook with an earth-shattering quake. Then, 4 pillars of light shot up from the center of each plaza in the upper, middle, and lower districts. In the end, they gathered together in the sky of the Tianguang ruins and exploded into dazzling fireworks. Heaven and earth as the furnace. Mountain and water spiritual herbs are refined into pills. The spirit pivot begins. The coiled dragon king succeeds. Congratulations to Tianguang Ruins special user, Yi Liangqin, for reaching the 1st place of the apricot, glazed, spirit pivot, and coiled dragon lists. Yi Liangqin, please come to the Dreamy Cloud Lake to receive your special reward within 3 days. Everyone in the plaza, or rather, the entire Tianguang Ruins, looked up at the sky. Then, they looked down at their surroundings. Everyone felt that there were only 5 words in front of their eyes. Pill God Yi. Gulp. Someone swallowed his saliva and murmured with a dreamy look on his face, again. Yi Liangqin, are you even human? In the Azure Blue World, he slaughtered the 3 lists of the Azure Cloud Academy. In the Deer Cry Banquet, he slaughtered the 6 lists of the Dragon Ascension rankings. In the Medicine King's Inheritance, he slaughtered all the examination lists, and now, he slaughtered the 4 lists of the pill competition. Have you guys forgotten about the talisman that trampled all the elixirs and magic treasures underfoot in the golden heavenly light? Oh my god, I'll remember the fear of being dominated by Yi Liangqin every time I see the list. Sob sob sob, me too. This fellow was simply deranged. The name, Crazed List Slaughterer, is perfect. Chapter 2461. Compared to the shock of the passers-by, Liang Chen's army is wild with joy. The fallen city army is at a loss. Their whole body feels empty and absent-minded. For a moment, they can't react to what happened. The one who is most shocked is Lu Xingze. He has always believed that God Jun is invincible and can't be defeated by anyone. But today's result has completely subverted his imagination. How can this be? Could it be that God Jun isn't that strong? God Jun is naturally the strongest. Xiao Yunchuan's voice comes to his ears. This can only prove that Jun Qingwan isn't Jun Mayan at all. This woman is a fake. Lu Xingze suddenly turns around and looks at them in shock. At this moment, a soft female voice is heard. Zhe, I also think that Jun Qingwan isn't God Jun. Shu Wei, why are you here? Lu Xingze sees his fiancée and quickly greets her. When he realizes what she said, he immediately says with a dignified expression, Shu Wei, you mean, the woman called Shu Wei has a gentle and refined appearance, but her cultivation is extremely high. She has already reached the 9th level of nascent soul. She looks at the ashen-faced Ling Qingwan and slowly shakes her head. I don't know how to describe this feeling. In short, I like God Jun very much, but I don't like this woman. This sentence is very similar to what Li Xiuxiu said. It's a woman's intuition towards another woman. It's very subtle and indescribable, but extremely accurate. Shu Wei continues, moreover, I think that with God Jun's character, he would never do something like forcing someone to hand over the inheritance. Chinda and the others nod again and again. The fallen city army who heard their conversation is also shocked. Then, a monstrous rage surges in their hearts. They were deceived. This woman isn't God Jun at all. Xiao Yunchuan sneers, not only is she pretending to be Mei Yanyan, but she's also ruining her reputation. What a joke. She even dares to pretend to be God Jun. Who the hell is this smelly whore? I will tear her apart. Damn, I worked so hard to support her, but it's all for an imposter. The discussions, exclamations, and curses of the crowd in the plaza, mixed with the lingering sound of Tianguang Ruin's broadcast, all poured into Ling Qingwan's ears. Her face was ashen and pale. Her hands were clenched into fists by her side, and her teeth were grinding. Lost? Was she really being stepped on by that bastard? How was this possible? Just as her mind was buzzing, she suddenly heard Lu Yu say loudly, this isn't right. The elixirs that Yi Liangchen submitted for appraisal seemed to be the most ordinary elixirs. How could the value of these elixirs be compared to the soaring dragon elixir? No matter how many of them there were, they shouldn't have gotten such a high score. Could it be that Tianguang Ruins is blatantly protecting Yi Liangchen? As soon as these words came out, the surging emotions of the crowd cooled down for a moment. The people arranged by Lu Yu immediately came back to their senses after receiving the instructions and shouted loudly. The great god Jun is refining the rising dragon pill. Everyone knows that it's a legendary pill. No one in the cultivation continent has ever succeeded in refining it. What the hell did Yi Liangchen submit for appraisal? Antidote pill. Essence restoring pill. Spirit restoring pill. I can refine all of these elixirs. That's right. Logically speaking, a single rising dragon pill should be worth all of Yi Liangchen's elixirs, right? Chapter 2462. A portion of the beautiful city army's expressions also changed from shock to doubt. Take a closer look. The pills Yi Liangchen submitted are all the most basic ones. Not to mention Jun Qingling's ascending dragon pill and Su Qingling's clear void pill, they're all mediocre compared to the other pill refiners on the coiled dragon list. That's right. No matter how many of these pills there are, how can they be worth so many points? The rankings of the pill competition were based on the pills submitted by the cultivators. Different types of pills could be accumulated. But generally speaking, the higher the grade of the pill, the fewer the types of pills the pill refiner could refine. Everyone understood the principle of quality over quantity. Therefore, an ordinary pill refiner who refined hundreds of basic pills might not even be able to get enough points to refine a rare top-grade pill. This was also why the pill refiners on the list would usually only submit 3 to 5 types of pills. Tianguang Ruins had just been shaken by the news that he had become an elixir god. No one realized that Yi Liangchen had submitted 8 types of pills to the coiled dragon list, and every single one of them was a basic pill that cultivators were familiar with. But how could such ordinary pills be worth 950,000 points? Hearing Lu Yu's words, the people below started arguing again. Ling Qingwan was like a fish that was about to suffocate, but suddenly came back to life. Her eyes flashed with hope as she glanced at Lu Yu. Lu Yu immediately understood and continued, I've always felt that Tianguang Ruins was very biased towards Yi Liangchen. There were a few times when the tribulation lightning should have struck, but it passed. I thought I was overthinking, but now it seems like, hee. We suspect that the results of the coiled dragon list were falsified. We request for a thorough investigation and justice for God Jun to devour. Tianguang Ruins is harboring Yi Liangchen. We must seek justice for God Jun. A small portion of the people in the reincarnation plaza were riled up and shouted. Yi Liangchen's army was furious. Damn it. Before the competition, he said that God Yi was inferior to that bullshit immortal fairy. After the competition, he refused to admit it. He even said that Tianguang Ruins was harboring him. Tianguang Ruins had existed for so many years, when did they make a mistake? When did they protect anyone outside of the rules? Bah! If you can't afford to lose, then don't gamble. Mu Yan leisurely walks out of the appraiser hall. Listening to the doubts of the people in the reincarnation square, the corners of her mouth can't help but curve. Because in her ears, Lil Tian's voice was still stiff, but it was obviously angry. First host, Little Tian didn't break any rules. No one, including Master and I, can violate the rules of Tianguang Ruins. Mu Yan smiled and comforted him, I know, Xiao Tian is the most obedient. Lil Tian snorted. Just you wait, first host. Lil Tian will slap their faces till they're swollen. Xiao Tian, Master, Xiao Tian, Xiao Yan Master. She slightly raised her chin and revealed a disdainful expression. She then sneered, Yi Liangchen, don't think that you can defeat me with such a despicable method. Don't think that you can step on me. Xiao Tian do Xiao Yi pills, and Chen Tian dragon. Xiao Tian Mu Yan chuckled, why wouldn't I dare to say it? Damn, you obviously cheated to win, yet you're still so shameless. Chapter 2463. Those die-hard supporters of Ling Qingwan suddenly burst into a torrent of abuse. Not to be outdone, Liang Chen's army is about to speak up. Suddenly, thunderclouds gather above the reincarnation square. With a rumbling sound, the thunder falls. Those who had just questioned Tianguang Ruins and insulted Mayan are foaming at the mouth and kneeling on the ground. Little Tian's mechanical and flat voice comes from the sky, but it's full of austere majesty. Insulting Tianguang Ruins' pill god, questioning the rules of Tianguang Ruins, will be punished with an electric shock to the soul as a warning. If there is a second offense, severe punishment will be meted out. This punishment can be said to be as powerful as a thunderbolt, subduing everyone present. Ling Qingwan fiercely grits her teeth, her complexion ashen. Lu Yu's eyes turn, and he's about to speak. He hears Little Tian's flat voice again. To devour. In view that some people have doubts about the points of the coiled dragon list, the results of all the elixirs submitted by the special user Yi Liangchen will be announced. Hereafter, if anyone questions this matter again, it will be regarded as challenging the authority of Tianguang ruins and will be severely punished. As soon as the voice falls, a light screen suddenly pops up above the coiled dragon list. Everyone can't help but stare at it curiously. Someone sucked in a breath of cold air at the sight of it. Lu Xingze even loses his composure and exclaims, 99% purity. How is this possible? Yes, when everyone's eyes fall on the light screen that displays the elixir's appraisal information. Their attention is completely attracted by only one parameter. That is, purity. There are a total of 8 basic elixirs, and the purity of each one has reached a frightening 99%. In the Shuzhen continent, elixirs with 80% purity are already high-quality elixirs that are easy to absorb and have no side effects. A few days ago, Lu Xingze used the glass bottle to appraise Ling Qingwan's elixirs in front of everyone. The purity of 90%, 91%, has already shocked everyone. 91% is already the elixir with the highest purity in the history of the Shuzhen continent. Then, 99% purity, what kind of concept is this? The reincarnation square is completely boiling. Someone is shouting, "Long live God Yi! God Yi is mighty!" Someone is shouting for Ling Qingwan to immediately admit defeat and admit that she isn't the fatally killing god. There were also people who shouted themselves hoarse and asked me when the world's #1 store would start selling these pills with 99% purity. Mu Yan tossed the pill in her hand to North Sunflower Xiangwan. In an instant, everyone's envious, jealous, and hateful gazes were focused on North Sunflower Xiangwan. North Sunflower Xiangwan immediately hid the pill into the jade key like a little bird protecting its food. He did not even spare Easy Bro a glance as a bright smile bloomed on his face. Facing everyone's aggrieved gazes, Mayan says unhurriedly, "Don't worry, these, stainless foundation elixirs, will be sold at Laozi's #1 store under the heavens. As usual, as long as it's Liangchen Dajuan, you can reserve them." Waves of cheers and sighs could be heard from the square. However, Mu Yan was too lazy to pay attention to this. Instead, she looked at Ling Qingwan. That pair of indolent and charming peach blossom eyes instantly became bone-chilling cold. His entire body seemed to be enveloped by the might of a king. "Now, I'll say it again in front of everyone, are you?" Jun Mayan. Chapter 2464. Ling Qingwan's whole body suddenly trembled, and her complexion turned pale inch by inch. She didn't understand what was going on. She was obviously the high and mighty immortal, but facing the pressure that Yi Liangchen suddenly released, she felt as if someone was strangling her throat. An inexplicable fear mixed with panic welled up in her heart, causing the quibble that she wanted to blurt out to get stuck in her throat. Finally, her lips trembled and opened and closed several times, before she could only spit out 3 words in a hoarse voice, "I am not whoosh." This time, the reincarnation square directly exploded as if oil was poured on a raging fire. "Are you kidding me? You're not great God Jun, then why do you want us to support you and go against Yi Liangchen's support? Damn it, where did this slut come from? Pretending to be our alluring killing god, don't you have any shame? Damn it, I even spent 80 million crystals for her bullshit snow soul pill, give me back my crystals." The people who were worshipping Ling Qingwan before turned into fiendish debt collectors in a flash, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they pounced towards her. Ling Qingwan was so scared that she hurriedly retreated from the Tianguang ruins, but before she could move, she was knocked to the ground. For a moment, countless punches and kicks landed on her body, causing her to let out a sharp cry. "Miss, the person beside Ling Qingwan is the confidant of the Dingguo Marquis, Lu Yu." Chu Tianyou's restrained voice came into Mayan's ears. She followed Chu Tianyou's line of sight and looked at the wretched and unremarkable man. She slightly narrowed her eyes, and the corner of her mouth hooked up into a sneer. In an uninhabited valley near the refining god precipice. Light flickered, and a tall figure suddenly appeared among the green mountains and clear waters. He frowned as he looked at the refining god abyss with billowing black water. The sunlight fell on the man's body, illuminating his elegant jade-like, incomparably handsome and peerless elegance. Master, don't be impulsive. This is the refining god abyss. Even if you completely immerse yourself in it, you will also be completely eroded. Qi-wen looked at Luo Yunxiao's expression, and hurriedly jumped out of the spiritual pet bag, saying excitedly. Luo Yunxiao was silent for a long time, then whispered, "Perhaps, the thing I'm looking for is here." "You also said that it's a possibility. What if it's not?" "Master, please don't gamble with your life. Perhaps what you're looking for isn't in the cultivation continent at all, but in..." Qi-wen tried her best to persuade Luo Yunxiao to give up on this idea. At this moment, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded in Luo Yunxiao's mind. "Master, someone has entered the Dreamy Cloud Lake to receive a special reward." Special reward? Luo Yunxiao was taken aback. If he remembered correctly, it had been many years since anyone in the Tianguang ruins of the cultivation mainland had received a special reward. However, he didn't stop. His divine sense quickly entered the Tianguang ruins and appeared in the core area, the Dreamy Cloud Swampland. The Dreamy Cloud Swampland was overflowing with colorful lights. It was as if there were countless galaxies descending from the sky and descending into the land of the nine heavens. A masked man wearing a snow-white robe with cloud patterns stood in the center of the Milky Way fantasy ocean, waiting quietly. Suddenly, the Milky Way swayed gently, the broken stars scattered, and the water rippled. A figure slowly walked into the Dreamy Cloud Swampland. Luo Yunxiao's jade-like pupils abruptly contracted when she saw the newcomer. The broken stars scattered by the Milky Way floated around. Some landed on the person who entered, and some landed on Luo Yunxiao. In the next moment, he felt a heat on the back of his hand. Luo Yunxiao suddenly looked down and saw that the same heart mark that represented the three live stones covenant was faintly discernible, and it was as hot as fire. Chapter 2465. Tomorrow is the pill competition. Mu Yan holds a small ice blue key in her hand, gently turning it. This small key is her reward for attaining Tianguang ruins, Pill God, achievement. Its appearance is almost exactly the same as the jade key, except that it's a bit smaller, and it's blue. According to Little Tian, this is the key to enter the core area of Tianguang ruins, Dreamy Cloud Lake. Moreover, this key is a one-time use. After entering and receiving the reward, she can no longer go back in. Little Tian originally said that she would receive the reward within 3 days. But these days, Little Tian has been unable to contact the master, and asked her if she wants to delay the time to receive the reward. Mu Yan had already planned to agree. But just now, Little Tian suddenly sent a message, saying that he had contacted the master, and that she could receive it at any time. Mu Yan turns the blue key again, and finally chooses to go to Tianguang ruins. However, when she enters Tianguang ruins this time, the first thing she sees is not the reincarnation square or the shops. Instead, it's a shining door. Above the door, there are the words, Dreamy Cloud Lake, written in bold and powerful characters. Mu Yan looks around and mobilizes her divine sense, only to find that an invisible pressure and resistance is coming from all directions. Her divine sense can't even extend a meter in this place. Is this the core area of Tianguang ruins? Mu Yan composes herself, clenches the small blue key in her hand, and walks in. As soon as she enters the Dreamy Cloud Lake, she is stunned by the dreamlike scenery in front of her. There are no mountains, no water, no birdsong, and no fragrance of flowers. But it's a brilliant sea of stars that would enchant anyone. Mu Yan looks up in a daze, looking at the falling stars and the scattered broken stars. For a moment, she almost forgets to breathe. Dazzling starlight fell on her hair and body. Mu Yan curiously wants to touch it, to verify whether it's real or not. However, at this moment, she feels a burning sensation on the back of her right hand. Mu Yan quickly looks down, and sees that strange yet familiar heart mark slowly appearing on the back of her hand. Hiss! She sucks in a breath of cold air. Then, as if realizing something, Mu Yan suddenly looks up. In an instant, she comes face to face with a pair of eyes that are as dark as ink, as deep as the sea. She subconsciously takes a step back, and looks again. Only then did they realize that it was a man wearing a mask. Because of the dazzling light of the galaxy, she couldn't clearly see the man's appearance. He only knew that he had a pair of extremely beautiful jade-like eyes. Mayan's gaze slowly moves down, falling on the back of the man's hand. Even under the refraction of the starlight, the man's hand appeared distorted and blurry, but she could still clearly see the almost identical heart mark on it. Boom! Mayan's mind is buzzing. He felt as if 10,000 grass mud horses were galloping across his heart. Holy shit! Could it be that this man was the fiancé that her cheap father had arranged for her? Luo Yunxiao looked at the young girl in the starlight, who had a stunned expression on her face. She almost used all the strength in her body to restrain herself from swallowing and clenching her fists. How could he have thought that the one who came to the Dreamy Cloud Lake to receive the special reward would actually be Mayan? Moreover, the special floating energy in the Dreamy Cloud swampland was actually able to trigger the 3 lives covenant's mark of 1 heart. At this moment, he couldn't say a single word. He couldn't hear a single sound. The only thing that filled his mind was his heartbeat that was like a drum, and his emotions that had once again gone out of control. Chapter 2466. Mayan stroked the void spirit ring on her finger, slowly calming down. She hesitantly stepped forward and whispered, "Are you the master of Tingguang ruins?" Luo Yunxiao softly grunted. In the special space of the Yunmeng swamp, his voice and figure seemed vague and distant. Mayan didn't recognize the person at all. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should ask who the other person was and where her cheap father was. Then, the 2 sides could negotiate to dissolve the engagement. However, at this time, the burning sensation on the back of her hand, along with the heart-shaped mark, suddenly disappeared. Mayan quickly looked up and saw that there was nothing on the back of the man's hand. She frowned. Had she been dazzled by the starlight just now? It couldn't be, right? Just then, a low and clear voice came. There are 3 choices for the special reward. With that, Luo Yunxiao raised his hand, and 3 balls of light appeared in front of Mayan. Above the balls of light were written, Drifting Soul Seal, Invincible Order, and Floating Light Jade Key. Mayan curiously looked up. She knew about the Drifting Soul Seal. It was the special jade key that allowed her Qi Shaohuang to enter Tingguang ruins. But what did the Invincible Order and Floating Light Jade Key mean? Just as she was puzzled, she heard the man's somewhat vague voice in her mind. The Invincible Order allows you to ignore all the rules of Tingguang ruins. Even if you erase a person's soul, you will not suffer any punishment. The time limit is 1/4 of an hour. Mayan slightly inhaled a breath of cold air. This Invincible Order was truly worthy of its name. Although it was only 1/4 of an hour, it was tantamount to becoming the master of everyone in Tingguang ruins. Luo Yunxiao continued, the jade key is used to devour. The corresponding levels of Tingguang ruins are divided into Cloudy Sky Jade Key, Floating Light Jade Key, and Spirit Ruins Jade Key. You now have the Cloudy Sky Jade Key, which can open the low-level Tianguang ruins, but not the middle-level Tianguang ruins. Mayan immediately understood. The Floating Light Jade Key was the key to open the middle-level Tianguang ruins. Her mind faintly flashed the words that little Tian often said, "It's a pity that little Light and little Su are still asleep and can't see the first host. Hee, they must be so envious of me." Therefore, little Tian is in charge of the low-level Tianguang ruins. Little Light and little Su were in charge of the middle high-grade Heaven Light ruins. But the problem was, where was the intermediate Tianguang ruins? Even if she got the Flickering Light Jade Key, she couldn't get in now. Mu Yan thought for a moment and said, "I choose to be invincible. First host, choose the Floating Light Jade Key." "I must choose the Floating Light Jade Key." Little Tian's anxious voice came into his ears. However, as if it was afraid of being discovered, it only shouted once and quickly disappeared. But from this sentence alone, one could hear the eagerness in his voice. Mu Yan immediately corrected herself and said, "I choose the Floating Light Jade Key." Luo Yunxiao nodded and waved his hand lightly. The last ball of light entered Mu Yan's body. She used her divine sense to inspect her own body and did not feel any changes. She couldn't help but pout. She felt that she had made a huge loss by choosing the Floating Light Jade Key instead of the invincible token. No. Her top priority was to ask the owner of Tianguang Ruins if he knew about the engagement. It would be great if he could think of a way to remove it. Mu Yan raised her head to look at the man in front of her. She deliberated over her words and said softly, "May I ask if you know?" Before she could finish her words, she felt the world spinning. Chapter 2467. By the time he regained his senses, he was already at the reincarnation square. Where was the Milky Way of starlight? Where was the masked man? Mu Yan is dumbfounded and quickly looks for Xiao Tian. "I want to see your master, what should I do?" Lil Tian said awkwardly, "But without master's order, no one can enter the Dreamy Cloud Swampland. Little Tian must never reveal master's identity." Mu Yan heaves a long sigh, and can only give up. In her heart, she once again cursed her cheap father 100 times. Forget it, fiancé isn't important. Maybe he was also a victim. After all, who would be willing to get engaged to someone they had never met before? The most important thing was to quickly find her cheap father and force him to erase the contract on the 3-life stone as soon as possible. Mu Yan very quickly threw this interlude to the back of her mind, and wholeheartedly threw herself into the pill competition that was about to begin. And in the valley beside the God Refinement precipice, Luo Yunxiao's figure gradually appeared. She clenched her fists tightly and then loosened them. A self-mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Shoshian Continent, Polar Domain Border. With the River of Forgetfulness as the boundary, the armies of the Polar Domain and the Nether Realm were ready to go, their killing intent soaring to the heavens. The aura that suffused the air was tense and murderous, and it was like a bowstring that was pulled taut to the limit. At any time, at any place, a light touch would cause it to shatter, transforming into a great battle that shook the heavens and left corpses floating for thousands of miles. Not far from the two sides, there was a group of strangely dressed devil cultivators wandering around. Pairs of oily green eyes stared at the soldiers of the Polar Domain, and from time to time, they would let out horrifying giggles. "Monarch, these demon soldiers and demon generals are too hateful." Xing Lang said angrily, "As long as we move, they will secretly sabotage us. Otherwise, just based on Yin Wuji's subordinates, they would have long been crushed by us." This time, the troops sent by the Devil region to assist the Nether region were not many. However, they were extremely difficult to deal with. They were all people with incredible speed, tenacious vitality, and all kinds of strange methods. They've never confronted the polar domain's great army head-on. As soon as they see Di Mingju, they're like a cat that's seen a mouse, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. But as long as the polar domain army and the nether realm clashed, these people would immediately scuttle out like ghosts to wreak havoc. It was simply too annoying. Unfortunately, even if Di Mingju keeps watch here, he can't casually make a move to devour. Otherwise, the demonic lord Jun Shirtian and the domain master of the nether region, Yin Wuji, would have a reason to join hands and kill him. Just like Yin Wuji, he could instigate his subordinates to slaughter the immortals of the polar domain, but he would never dare to do it himself. The moment he made the slightest movement, it would be equivalent to breaking the underlying agreement. Di Mingju will kill him without mercy. Hearing Xing Lang's words, Di Mingju's expression doesn't change in the slightest. However, he knew in his heart that this battle would not last long. This was only the nether realm and the demon realm probing the current strength of the polar domain. Once they figured out the situation, they would retreat. But at the same time, it also revealed that the peaceful situation of the Shushan continent's tripartite balance might be broken. Di Mingju frowned slightly. Right at this moment, Elder Yu, who was at the side, suddenly snorted and said, "If Lord had agreed to form a marriage alliance with the demon race, then the nether realm would have been hammered into the core of the earth by now, and they wouldn't dare to come out and be arrogant anymore." Xing Lang glared at Elder Yu. This old fart still hasn't given up and wants the emperor to go up and marry her. What kind of status does Jun Shang have? How can he marry a demon princess that he hasn't even met before? Chapter 2468. What's more, Jun Shang already has Miss June and the little master. Di Mingju's cold gaze looked at Elder Yu without a trace of ripples. Elder Yu shivered, immediately lowering his head and shrinking his shoulders, but he couldn't help but say indignantly, This subordinate heard the news from the devil domain. I heard that those demons are more interested in Jun Shang marrying their demon princess. After all, Yin Wuji's other son had always been a mystery. Apart from Jun Shirtian, no one knew his appearance and strength. Not to mention, everyone knew that the one to inherit the nether domain in the future would be Yin Yuani. How could such a bastard child, who couldn't be seen in the light, be worthy of their princess? On the contrary, Di Mingju's peerless grace, unparalleled strength, and his monarch status in the polar domain, all made the demons, who revered the strong, more satisfied and yearned for him. Unfortunately, the protectors hid it from the demon venerable and secretly sent the marriage document to the polar domain, but were mercilessly rejected. Elder Yu complained, actually, even if it was a marriage, the demons didn't plan to join the war so early. But the words spoken in the Divine Wind Palace that day somehow reached the ears of the Devil Region and Devil Lord Jun Shirtian. The protector of the Devil tribe was so angry that he swore to teach the polar domain a lesson. They also said that they would make Jun Shang and the polar domain regret looking down on their demon princess. Devil Lord Jun Shirtian even said. Star Wolf said impatiently, "What did they say?" Elder Yu inwardly sent the message from the Devil domain back to Devour. The message was turned around. The polar domain rejected the marriage with the demons and sent an immortal monarch. Originally, it was just to return the document to the demon protectors, but who knew they would run into Jun Shirtian? Jun Shirtian, my daughter is not worthy of the polar domain's emperor. The polar domain immortal monarch who went to the devil domain to reject the marriage shook his head in fear. No, it's just that our emperor's heart already belongs to someone. Ha! I hope that Di Mingju doesn't regret it one day. Go back and tell him, even if all the men in the world are dead, my daughter will not look up to him. The polar domain immortal monarch cut a sorry figure as he was blasted out of the devil's domain. After he returned, he didn't dare to report to Di Mingju, and only sent the news to Elder Yu. Not long after that, the poltergeist ghosts invaded. After repelling the poltergeist ghosts, the Nether Realm joined forces with the Devil race to attack the border of the polar domain. This was clearly June Shirtian flying into a rage out of humiliation. Xing Lang said angrily, "Bullshit demon princess, she's not worthy of Lord in the first place. Which coward was the one who sent the letter back? You actually came back with your tail between your legs and let them insult the emperor. Damn it, if he was there, he would definitely reply for their Jun Shang. Even if all the women in the world die, our Jun Shang still won't marry that bullshit demon princess of yours." Di Mingju turned a deaf ear to the conversation between the two. His gaze faintly looked in the direction where the army of the Nether Realm was gathering, calculating when they would leave. At that moment, his void spirit ring glowed brightly. Di Mingju's eyebrows twitch, and his divine sense sinks inside to sense it. His originally cold and calm face instantly became bone-chilling, and his eyes emitted a thick killing intent. The connection between the two ethereal rings doesn't allow him to see what's happening on Mu Yan's side. But he can sense the energy fluctuations and life aura within Mu Yan's body. Just now, he clearly sensed that the 3 lives 1 heart seal within Mu Yan's body vibrated. Chapter 2469. That means that the damned fiancé, who made a 3 live stone engagement with his Yan has appeared. Di Mingju's hands suddenly clench, and he turns around to leave. "Lord, where are you going?" Elder Yu hurriedly asked. Di Mingju was about to blurt out, "Cultivation continent," but he swallowed the words back. This was a time of war, and the polar realm was a matter of life and death. He couldn't leave. His icy blue eyes were filled with frenzied irritation and anger, revealing a faint crimson red. He almost couldn't bear it anymore and personally made a move to slaughter all the people who were delaying him from going back to see Mu Yan. Ingmei suddenly exclaimed, "Jun Shang, quickly come and look, the people from the Devil Domain seem to have retreated." Xing Lang, Elder Yu, and the rest swiftly arrived at the front of the formation. Only then did they discover that the fiend race soldiers that were originally lingering around the surroundings were really retreating in batches. Some of the people from the Nether Realm angrily and suspiciously went to inquire, but in the end, they returned empty-handed. "Strange, what's going on? Why did the demons suddenly retreat?" "Ingmei, Jun Shang, this subordinate will go and inquire." Saying that, without waiting for Di Mingju's response, Ingmei's figure has already disappeared. About a quarter of an hour later, Ingmei returned. She lands in front of Di Mingju and bows towards him. The expression on her face is rather strange. After a long while, he said, "This subordinate heard from the demon race that they have some information about the princess' whereabouts. They have no desire to continue fighting, so they retreated." Elder Yu's eyes widened. "What?" There was news of the demon princess, whose name, appearance, and whereabouts were unknown. "How did you find it?" If the demon race princess really came back, and the infernal region and nether region were to successfully unite by marriage, then the situation of the polar region would be even more severe. Di Mingju's eyes flashed. A thought seemed to flash through his mind, but it was too fast for him to grasp it. Xing Lang said excitedly, "Monarch, this is great. Once the Devil Domain retreats, how can the Nether Domain block the attack of my polar domain? We will launch an all-out attack now and give them a fatal blow." Di Mingju restrained his emotions and smiled coldly. "Do you think that without the demon domain, Yin Wuji would dare fight?" Almost as soon as he finished speaking, someone rushed in from outside. "Emperor, the Nether Realm's army has retreated." Star Wolf spat, "Coward." But Di Mingju is no longer in the mood to stay. He only throws down one sentence, "Ben Jun is going to the Shuzhen continent for a trip." He disappeared without a trace. Star Wolf hesitated for a moment and immediately followed. The alchemy competition had officially begun. The first stage was the audition in Tianguang ruins. All the alchemists on the apricot forest, colored glass, spirit pivot, and coiling dragon lists were qualified to participate. Logically speaking, those who were able to rank at the top of the spirit pivot and coiling dragon rankings were already the predetermined champions of the pill competition. But in reality, that was not the case. Every alchemy grand competition's competition event was very peculiar. Usually, it wasn't a direct test of an alchemist's rank and strength, but rather a test of an alchemist's potential and comprehensive accomplishments. Moreover, it was the freedom of the alchemists to choose which pill to use to appraise and climb up the rankings. But in the pill competition, apart from the finals that would be held in the Imperial Palace, the alchemists usually didn't decide what type and rank of pill to refine. At this time, whether an alchemist's foundation was solid enough, whether their talent was strong enough, and whether their knowledge was broad enough would have a great effect. Chapter 2470. This was also the reason why the deans of Longting still asked Mu Yan for help, even though they knew that she could only refine 6th-grade elixirs. At this time, the rebirth square of Tianguang ruins was already packed with people. The light screen that originally occupied the center of the square had been removed, replaced by a small room that was almost identical. There was a shelf in the small room, on which different kinds of elixirs were placed. In the center of the room, there was a huge furnace, next to which were fire crystals. Not all alchemists had fire attribute spiritual roots, so they couldn't freely control flames. And these fire crystals were used to assist in making and controlling fire. Of course, people without fire attribute spiritual roots were generally unable to accurately control their Dan fire, so their alchemy level naturally wouldn't be high. The first round of the elixir competition officially begins. All participating alchemists, please refine 3 kinds of elixirs, regardless of grade or type. The time limit is 4 hours. The rules are as follows. First, the jade key space is sealed, and only the elixirs on the medicine shelf can be used. The type, quality, and quantity of elixirs obtained by all participants are exactly the same. Second, only the 7th-grade alchemy furnace provided by Tianguang ruins can be used. You can use your own spiritual fire or fire crystals. Third, the ranking is based on the types of elixirs refined within 4 hours, and the top 50 will advance. If the number of elixirs refined is the same, then the quality of the elixir will be used as an auxiliary judgment. Fourth, if you refine less than 3 kinds of elixirs in 4 hours, you will be directly eliminated. As soon as this rule came out, some of the people watching the competition sucked in a breath of cold air. It's only the first stage of the preliminary selection, and this is already the assessment content. Isn't it too difficult? The speaker was a 6th-grade alchemist, and he shook his head repeatedly as he spoke. Most people didn't understand this rule at all, and didn't understand what was so difficult about it. Don't you see the elixirs on the medicine shelf? There are only 10 kinds in total. I took a rough look just now, and almost all of these elixirs are unable to complement each other. At this time, everyone realized the seriousness of the problem. Even those who didn't know anything about alchemy knew that refining an elixir generally required at least 3 or more kinds of elixirs, and for these kinds of elixirs to be successfully refined, they must complement each other, otherwise, it would be impossible to form an elixir. Can there really be 50 people who can successfully refine and advance? I wonder who will be ranked first in the first round of auditions. Is there even a need to say it? Where God Yi is, how can we not get first place? Look, all the participating alchemists have entered their rooms. A ray of light flashed in every room, and familiar figures appeared in front of the pill furnace. In an instant, the entire square was boiling with excitement. Master Su Qingling is so cool. We will always support you. Longevity Master Gu Bai will win. Ha! Jun Qingwan actually still has the face to participate. Immortal Fairy Qingwan's strength is there for all to see, why can't she participate? So what if she pretended to be Jun Mayan? At least, Fairy Qingwan's beauty is real. She is much more beautiful than that ugly Yi Liangqin. Shouts and cheers rose and fell from the crowd. Even Ling Qingwan, who had been ruthlessly slapped in the face a few days ago and whose reputation was almost completely ruined, had many people supporting her just because of her face. However, these voices could not be compared to the voices of support from Liang Chen's army that covered the sky and covered the earth. Chapter 2471. However, Mu Yan and the others, who were in the small room, were completely unaware of the commotion outside. After listening to the rules of the first round of the pill competition and seeing the 10 types of elixirs on the shelves, the corners of Mayan's mouth curls up, revealing a smile of interest. Was this competition really interesting? However, when she turned around and saw the pill furnace at the side, her face instantly darkened. As time passed, in the room shown on the screen, many alchemists had begun to work. To an ordinary alchemist, this question might be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, the alchemists gathered in the elixir competition were the top existences in the entire cultivation land. How could a mere question stump them? If there weren't enough types of spirit herbs, they could substitute similar ones. Spirit herbs were unable to fuse with each other in alchemy, but through precise control of the fire, the unstable and incompatible elements could be removed. Look, Immortal Fairy Wan has already refined 4 types of pills. I already said that Immortal Fairy Qing Wan is truly talented and has peerless beauty. So what if she's not Jun Mayan? We still support her and like her. Master Su Qingling has also refined 4 types of pills. Wow! 5, 1 more than Jun Qingwan. Master Su is so cool. No wonder we've been supporting him for so long. From time to time, exclamations could be heard in the square. Then, someone realized that something was wrong. Why hasn't Almighty Yi started refining pills yet? 1.5 hours have already passed. Yeah. Why is Great God Yi staring blankly at the alchemy furnace? Could it be that Yap Liangqin can't even pass such an easy selection? That's hard to say. After all, Yi Liangqin has only learned alchemy for a short period of time. His foundation might not be strong enough. Someone burst out laughing. Yap Liangqin was so arrogant during the 2-dan competition. Could he have been defeated in the first round? That would be a huge loss of face. Ling Qingwan's supporters started to mock and ridicule him. Although Liang Chendajuan retorted loudly, his heart was beating like a drum. 4 hours had almost passed. Why was Almighty Yi still not concocting pills? Am I really going to lose? Just as everyone is feeling suspicious, Mu Yan finally moves. However, it would have been better if she hadn't moved. The moment she moved, everyone's jaws almost dropped. Why does God Yi want to use fire crystals? Could it be that she didn't have a fire spirit root and couldn't produce spiritual fire? How can you accurately control the flames with fire crystals? Holy shit! What was Yap doing? She actually poured all the elixirs into the pill refining furnace in one go. I think she doesn't know how to solve the problem, so she just gave up. Apart from those who supported Ling Qingwan and those who liked to defame Yi Liangqin, who were clamoring and ridiculing, everyone else fell into a deathly silence. Even Liang Chendajuan didn't have the mood to argue with them anymore. They really could not figure out what God Yi was trying to do. Putting 10 kinds of spiritual herbs into the alchemy furnace together, no matter how one thought about it, it was impossible to refine more than 3 kinds of medicinal pills, right? Time passed slowly. Soon, there was only 15 minutes left before the 6-hour time limit was up. In the assessment hut, most of the alchemists had already stopped what they were doing, but their expressions were different. Some people were dejected and vexed. These were those who admitted that it was already impossible for them to refine more than 3 kinds of medicinal pills. There were also some who were anxious and fearful. These were those who refined more than 3 kinds of medicinal pills, but were not sure if they could enter the top 50. Chapter 2472. Of course, there are also people who are confident that they can pass the first round of assessment. And the ones who refined the most elixirs are Ling Qingwan and Su Qingling. With just 10 kinds of elixirs, they refined 7 different kinds of elixirs. They are far ahead of the other alchemists by 4 or 5 kinds. On the reincarnation square, Su Qingling and Ling Qingwan's supporters are shouting louder than the other. Each of them thinks that their idol will get first place. There are even people asking the manager of the appraiser hall who will get higher points for the elixirs refined by the 2. After the manager saw it, he smiled and said, "In this old man's opinion, although Immortal Fairy Qingwan and Master Su refined the same kinds of elixirs, Immortal Fairy Qingwan's elixirs are mostly 9th grade, which can be said to bring out all the characteristics of elixirs. And the highest grade of elixirs refined by Master Su is only 8th grade, so the final winner should be Immortal Fairy Qingwan." These words immediately made Ling Qingwan's supporters arrogant, their voices raised an octave. "Ha ha ha, I already said that our Immortal Fairy Qingwan is the best. What number 1 alchemist in the world? That was before our Immortal Fairy Qingwan appeared. Didn't you see how our Immortal Fairy trampled on a certain someone on the coiled dragon list?" Su Qingling's supporters flushed with anger, but they couldn't say anything. These people turned their spears around and ridiculed Yi Liangchen even more. TSK, it's going to end soon, but Yi Liangchen is still refining. Stewing 10 kinds of elixirs, does she really think that she can stew something good? Ha ha ha. Alas, what a pity for great God Yi. If he refined a high-level elixir, maybe he would win. After all, the time to learn alchemy is too short. I still don't understand. Even if great God Yi can't solve the problem, he shouldn't throw in all the elixirs. Bah, pity my ass. She actually used fire crystals to control the fire. With this kind of aptitude, how did she climb to the top of the coiled dragon list? In my opinion, what 99% purity, it's simply Tianguang Su deliberately shielding her. Everyone was discussing when suddenly, a loud bang came from the light screen in Mayan's room. Then, countless smoke filled the entire light screen. What? What? Why can't I see anything? Ha ha ha, what else could it be? Did Yap explode his furnace? This is the first time I've heard that the champion of the pill competitions for rankings couldn't even pass the first round of the qualifiers. Amidst the discussion, a dang sound was heard in the sky above the reincarnation square. Then, little Tian's voice rang in everyone's ears. The first round of the alchemy competition has officially ended. The participating alchemists are in position. The results of the competition will be announced. Just as he finished his words, the pagoda slowly descended and turned into a high platform. Hundreds of participating alchemists stood in front of everyone. When Ling Qingwan's escort saw her dressed in gorgeous clothing, she immediately screamed, "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you're too amazing. You are the undisputed number 1, and the true number 1 on the coiled dragon list. Yi Liangchen, you fake trash. Get out of the competition." Ling Qingwan's face revealed a look of astonishment. She still didn't know what had happened. When she heard what one of Jun Qingwan's escorts said to her, her face immediately revealed an ecstatic smile. However, the next moment, little Tian's emotionless voice rang out again. Chapter 2473. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Number 1, Yap Liang Chin, he made 8 types of pills. Second place, Su Qingling, refined 7 types of elixirs. Third place, Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan, refined 7 types of medicinal pills. In an instant, it was as if everyone present had been immobilized. They stiffly froze on the spot, unable to make a single sound. Most of them doubted their ears. Didn't Yap Liangchen fail to concoct a pill? Didn't the furnace explode? How did he get first place? Just as everyone was stunned, on the screen, the small room that everyone's eyes were focused on. The smoke and dust slowly dissipated, revealing the interior of the house. He saw that the 7th grade alchemy cauldron had indeed exploded into pieces. The only thing left was the base of the pill furnace, which was still alone and broken. However, when everyone's gazes were focused on the base of the broken pill furnace, he discovered that there were 8 pills lying quietly on top of it. Yes, 8 pills. Not one more, not one less. Moreover, it could be seen with the naked eye that these 8 bullets were of completely different colors and sizes. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Fuck. Why was he able to refine 8 different elixirs in one go? Am I really not seeing things? To think that I'm also an alchemist, but now they don't even know what alchemy is. Isn't Qingguang Su cheating for Yi Liangqin? Bah, don't be so sour. Guru Yi had always been capable of doing what others could not. You couldn't do it, but that didn't mean others couldn't. Don't forget that Yi Liangqin is the only successor of the King of Medicine. Oh my God, God Yi, we mortals kneel before you. Even if you want to prove your strength, you don't have to show off your skills like this, right? We mortals really can't bear it. The members of the Xiaoyao sect, who were standing at the back of the crowd, couldn't help but laugh out loud. I know why 6th senior sister wants to use fire crystals to refine 8 pills in one furnace. It's not to show off at all. Ling Yuma laughed. Is there a need to say? It must be a 7th grade cauldron prepared by Tianguang ruins. Little junior sister can't use it at all as it will explode the moment she uses it. Because it will explode as soon as it is used, I used fire crystals that have relatively mild spiritual power. That's why I refined 8 kinds of pills in one furnace. Even if it explodes, the 8 types of medicinal pills have already been refined. The corners of Chu Moli's mouth curled up slightly. Junior apprentice sister is really becoming more and more interesting. Liang Chen's army was pleasantly surprised that the great god they worshipped had once again become number 1. However, there was another group of people whose joy was no less than theirs. Who was the one who said that our master Su Qingling would lose to Jun Qingwan? Someone's tone makes it sound like the champion is already in their bag, but in the end, they only got 3rd place. I'm dying of laughter. What immortal fairy Jun Qingwan? She's been slapped in the face time and time again, yet you still believe her. Did this kind of person have any face? How could he have the face to pretend to be Jun Immerse? Ling Qingwan's smile once again stiffened on her face. She had tasted the feeling of being slapped in the face by someone she looked down on time and again in public. And this time, the slap was even more ruthless. Yi Liangqin had counterattacked. She couldn't even compare to Su Qingling. How was this possible? However, Tianguang ruins seemed to have known that they would question him. Therefore, he quickly announced the properties of Su Qingling and Ling Qingwan's pills. Chapter 2474. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Although Su Qingling only refined a 7th or 8th grade elixir, the purity has reached 80%. And Ling Qingwan. The purity of that so-called 9th grade elixir doesn't even reach 60%. Once taken, it will produce Dan poison in the body. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a waste. Listening to the unbridled ridicule and gloating laughter of the people below, Ling Qingwan's face distorts, and there's a fishy sweetness in her throat. She almost spits out a mouthful of blood. Ever since Yi Liangchen publicly slapped her face and exposed her identity, Ling Qingwan's smooth sailing days on the road of cultivation have become difficult. The defeat on the coiled dragon list, and the matter of pretending to be Jun Mayan was slapped in the face. The popularity she accumulated in Tianguang ruins quickly collapsed. Even the people of the Bloodsword sect and Dingbei Ho Mansion, who were originally respectful to her, began to look at her with strange eyes. Even that disgusting man, Lu Yu. Although he used to be infatuated with her, he also revered her. But now, from time to time, he would look at her with that kind of disgusting gaze. When Ling Qingwan wanted to punish him in anger, what she got in return wasn't Lu Yu's horror and vulgarity, but giggles. Fairy Qingwan, do you want to make a comeback, and step on Yi Liangchen in the pill competition? Ha ha ha, this subordinate will definitely make your wish come true. When the time comes, I hope that Fairy Qingwan can let this subordinate get intimate with you. Ling Qingwan is thoroughly disgusted by Lu Yu's greasy face. But she wants to make a comeback. Before Di Mingju comes to the Shuzhen continent, she must gather a strong popularity, and get Di Mingju's attention. So much so that as long as she makes a comeback in the pill competition, she can even reclaim Jun Mayan's identity. But as it happens, she's once again at a disadvantage. The first round of the first stage of the pill competition has ended, and only 50 alchemists advanced. Tomorrow, the second round will continue, and the final 3 candidates will be decided. As soon as Ling Qingwan leaves Tianguang ruins, she smashes everything in the room. The door creaks, and Lu Yu's wretched figure comes in. When Ling Qingwan saw him, she immediately scowled and glared at him. Scram, who let you enter my room? Lu Yu chuckled, don't be angry, immortal fairy. This Yi Liangchen is only arrogant in the first round. I guarantee that he will definitely be defeated in the second round. Ling Qingwan sneered, useless trash, do you think I will still believe you? Lu Yu leaned close to Ling Qingwan's ear and whispered a few words. Ling Qingwan's eyes suddenly lit up, is this true? Immortal fairy, you must be joking. Lu Yu reaches out to hold Ling Qingwan's slender, jade-like hands, and gently caresses them. No matter who this subordinate lies to, I won't lie to you. Ling Qingwan felt as if there was some kind of sticky and disgusting reptile wriggling on her hand. She was so disgusted that she wanted to scream and shake him off. But when he thought of the importance of the second round of the competition, he endured it. If you do this well, I won't mistreat you. Lu Yu let out a few weird laughs, reached out his hand and pinched Ling Qingwan's body a few times, then turned around and left. Soon, the next day arrived. The second round of the first stage of the pill competition has begun. This time, the alchemists were still assigned to small rooms. The small rooms still had medicine shelves and alchemy furnaces. What's different from last time is that this time, the medicine shelves were filled to the brim with elixirs, no less than 100 different kinds. The alchemists in the rooms had just taken their places, but the reincarnation square was already in an uproar. Chapter 2475. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. I wonder what the test will be this time. Last time, I needed to refine at least 3 types of pills for 10 types of spirit herbs. This time, there are hundreds of spirit herbs, so it will definitely be harder than last time. Hee, no matter how difficult it is, the winner will definitely be God Yi. As he spoke, Lil Tian's voice rang out, instantly drowning out all the noise and entering everyone's ears. The second round of the alchemy competition has officially begun. All patients and doctors, please get into position. As soon as he finished speaking, the tower in the center of the reincarnation square disappeared again. In its place was a huge platform. However, the platform was divided into 10 independent spaces. In each space, there was a person lying on a bed with a sickly expression. Doctors stood beside the patients. After a moment of silence, shouts immediately rang out in the square. Damn, Dr. Huang, that's a famous doctor in the Xian world. Dr. Liang is the publicly acknowledged national master of the Lan family empire. He actually came as well. What is this competition about? Could it be? Someone had already roughly guessed what was going on. Lil Tian's emotionless voice sounded again. I will now announce the rules for the second round of the elixir competition. Firstly, there would be 5 alchemists, 1 patient and 1 doctor. The top 10 alchemists on the pill competitions for rankings would be decided by the votes of all the users on the Reincarnation Plaza. The rest of the alchemists will be randomly selected by drawing lots. Second, after the match was completed, the doctor would diagnose the patient's illness and inform the participating alchemists of the patient's illness in detail. The alchemists would then refine the elixir on the spot according to the patient's condition. Thirdly, if the patient's illness was caused by multiple concurrent cases, and the more patients' illnesses were cured by the pill, the higher the score would be. The final ranking was based on the patient's physical condition. The time limit for voting is 15 minutes. Almost as soon as Little Tian's voice fell, everyone in the rebirth square in the 3 districts heard Little Tian's prompt. Each person could only choose a doctor for 1 alchemist. Hearing this rule, Liang Chendajuan was simply wild with joy. In the second round of the alchemy competition, the strength of the alchemists is not the most important. The most important thing is the strength of the doctors. Yes, yes. This is also why everyone says that the accumulation of popularity before the alchemy competition is very important. Hahaha, most of the people in Reincarnation Square are now supporters of our Almighty Yi. That's great, Almighty Yi will definitely win easily. Hehe, now is the time for us, the Liangchen army, to contribute to God Yi. Which doctor should we choose? Is there even a need to ask? It's naturally the national physician of our Lan Empire, Dr. Liang. Everyone in Liang Chen's army rubbed their palms together eagerly. They wanted to choose the best doctor for their idol. In the corner, Lu Yute saw this scene as he expected, and the corners of his mouth curled into a strange smile. 15 minutes passed quickly, and the alchemist, doctor, and patient were quickly matched. The doctors and patients on the stage slowly disappeared. At the same time, the small room of the participating alchemists also changed. The rooms of the apothecary who drew the same doctor and patient merged together. The originally small room turned into a ring-shaped palace. It protected the doctor and the patient. In the space that was supposed to be sealed off, there were noises coming from the Reincarnation Square. Great God, you will win. Victory! Victory! Great God Yi, Dr. Liang is the national physician of the Lan Empire, and his medical skills are incomparably superb. He'll surely be able to wish you victory. Chapter 2476. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Mu Yan looked at the middle-aged man and the patient who appeared in the center of the palace, and her face revealed an incomparably gentle smile. This middle-aged man was one of the best doctors in the Lan Empire. He was respectfully called the nation's divine hand. Even Mu Yan had heard of the name Dr. Liang. In this competition, everyone could see how important a doctor was to the victory or defeat of the competition. And sending this nation's divine hand, Dr. Liang, in front of her, hoping to help her, was the most precious support and intention of Liang Chen's army. Compared to Mu Yan's gentle smile, the other alchemists were wild with joy. They didn't expect that their originally low ranking would be so lucky to be in the same group as Great God Yi. Now that Dr. Liang was diagnosing the patient's condition, the probability of them concocting the right medicine had increased by more than a little. The words, "competition begins." The hazy mist that originally shrouded the patient's body dissipated. Dr. Liang immediately turned around and probed the patient's body with his divine sense. After probing with his divine sense, he didn't immediately come to a conclusion. Instead, he held the patient's hand and felt his pulse, then checked his pupils and tongue. Even if he didn't check the patient's internal condition, just by looking at his appearance, he was already terminally ill and in dire straits. All the blue veins on his body were slightly bulging, appearing dark brown. There were also ulcers and pustules in some of the intersections of the meridians. His body twitched from time to time, his eyes turned white, and vomit spilled from his lips. His body was also emitting an unbearable stench. However, Dr. Liang seemed to be completely unaware of this. His expression didn't even change as he bent down, unbuttoned the patient's clothes, and checked every inch of his body to see if there were any meridians. Even ignoring the pustules on his chest, he stuck to his heart and listened to it. This kind of diagnosis lasted for more than an hour. The second round of the competition was even shorter than the first round, only 4 hours. The alchemists in the room were obviously anxious. Because for those special elixirs, even if they only refined one furnace, it would take at least an hour. And if the patient had different diseases, one furnace of elixirs might not be enough. If this went on, they would be too late. In particular, they could hear the shouts of the people in the reincarnation square from time to time. "Look, Dr. Huang has finished his diagnosis. Master Su Qingling has started refining. Jun Qingwan's side has also started to refine pills. Why hasn't Dr. Liang finished his diagnosis yet? Any later and it would be too late for Great God Yi to refine pills. Is it really right for us to choose Dr. Liang?" The alchemists in the same group as Mu Yan are all sweating profusely. Only Mu Yan's expression was incomparably calm. From beginning to end, her gaze did not land on Dr. Liang, but directly on the patient. When the time was about to pass, 2 hours passed. Dr. Liang finally raised his head and said with an indifferent expression, "All right, I'm done with my diagnosis. You can start refining the pill." The spirit of the alchemists below was shaken as they waited for him to tell them about his illness. However, Dr. Liang said, "This patient's condition is too complicated. Even if I tell you the condition, you won't know how to refine pills. Now, I'll name a type of spirit herb, and you can take one, and then refine it into a medicinal pill according to the proportion I've specified." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the square and palace was dumbfounded. Holy shit! You can even do this. Oh my god, I was just blaming Dr. Liang for being too slow. Only now do I know what a true master is. Chapter 2477. There was only a quarter of an hour left until the end of the second round. The other alchemists in the assessment space had already left and returned to the reincarnation square. Only Mu Yan's group, because Dr. Liang's diagnosis time was too long, was still continuing. But at this moment, it was already nearing the end. After Dr. Liang reported dozens of elixirs and explained the processing method, he finally let out a breath slowly. "Alright, you guys can start refining the elixirs. As long as it's not too shabby, saving this person's life won't be a problem." The few alchemists were overjoyed and immediately increased the output of the spiritual fire in their bodies. However, right at this moment, Dr. Liang's face suddenly sank, and he said with displeasure, "What are you doing? Didn't I already say that I had enough elixirs? Who allowed you to continue to rega?" This stern shout makes everyone's line of sight focus on Mu Yan. However, Mu Yan's expression was calm. His movements were quick, and he carefully took down 3 types of spirit medicines from the medicine rack. He used the water and wood's spiritual power in his body to carefully deal with it. Then, he placed it into the alchemy furnace. Dr. Liang was furious. "Didn't you hear me talking to you?" Mu Yan's hands didn't stop moving. She raised her head to look at the person in front of her and said with a smile, "Dr. Liang, your duty is to diagnose the patient and give the cause of the illness, not to refine pills. How to diagnose the illness and what solution to give is the doctor's job. But how to refine the pill and make the pill more effective is the job of the alchemist. Am I right?" The veins on Dr. Liang's forehead throbbed violently. There was obvious anger in his eyes. As the Long Clan Empire's divine hand of the nation, he'd never suffered such contempt. Good, you're just a silly little girl. This old man wants to see just how you're going to use your own alchemy to cure this patient who already has 1 foot in the Yellow Springs. Mu Yan smiles faintly, ignoring the furious Dr. Liang. He continued to use his Dan fire to melt the spirit herbs that he had just placed into the cauldron and fuse them with the other spirit herbs. Mu Yan's gaze sweeps over the alchemy furnace at the bottom, which is already faintly glowing red, and he helplessly rubs his nose. She should be thankful that Tianguang Ruins had provided a 9th-grade pill furnace for the second round of the competition. Moreover, it was a superior alchemy furnace among the 9 grades. However, in order to treat the patient, she had secretly engraved a subarray of the mind's eye on the alchemy furnace. From the looks of it, even this superior 9th-grade alchemy furnace could not hold on any longer. The other 4 alchemists witnessed the scene of Dr. Liang and Mu Yan quarreling. All of them shook their heads and chose to believe in Dr. Liang without any hesitation. He thought that Yap Liangchen was really looking for trouble. If Zhang Xian had concocted the pill according to Physician Liang's instructions, he would have been able to clinch the first place. She just had to do something superfluous. Did she have nothing better to do? The people in the reincarnation square had the same idea. Is God Yi out of his mind? Why didn't you follow Dr. Liang's instructions to refine pills? Maybe God Yi has his own ideas. Bah, what do you mean by your own thoughts? Is she a doctor? Know how to diagnose phagocytosis? Love? I see that Yap Liangchen thinks he's so great just because people call him a great god. Ha ha ha, what kind of god is that? Does she know that the number of patients Dr. Liang has treated is more than the number of meals she has eaten? Hearing the ridicule of the people around her, Ling Qingwan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Chapter 2478. They didn't expect that they hadn't used their backup plan yet. Yi Liangchen, the bastard, couldn't wait to die. After offending Dr. Liang, he was ridiculed for overestimating his own capabilities. In the end, he was ruthlessly slapped in the face and lost his reputation. This result was 100 times better than letting this bitch only lose the competition. 15 minutes passed in the blink of an eye, and the second round of the competition came to an end. The 4 alchemists in the same group as Mu Yan had already finished refining the pills and returned to the reincarnation square. In the entire palace, there's only Mu Yan, who's concentrating on alchemy, and Dr. Liang, who's coldly watching her from the side. Buzz! Caw caw caw! The pill furnace emitted a violent vibration, and at the same time, the bottom of the furnace emitted the sound of metal cracking. But it didn't explode in the end. Mayan let out a long sigh of relief and promptly opened the furnace. She took out the only pill inside and fed it to the delirious patient. Almost at the same time, little Tian's voice sounded in everyone's mind. The second round of the competition has ended. We will now show the results of the patients taking the pills. As soon as her voice falls, Mayan has already returned to the reincarnation square. 50 light screens appeared on the high platform in the reincarnation square. On the screen was the patient who had taken the pill. Lines of text appeared on the right side of the screen, clearly showing the changes in the patient's condition and the final physical state after taking the pill. Little Tian's voice continued. The first to complete the competition is Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan. Dr. Huang's diagnosis was that the upper body was poisoned by fire poison and the lower body was poisoned by cold poison. His dantian was slightly damaged. The fire poison caused sores in his mouth and tongue, dryness in his 5 viscera, excessive consumption of spiritual energy, and a sharp reduction in lifespan. The cold poison caused the meridians in his legs to be blocked, making it difficult for him to move. The pill concocted by Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan repaired the patient's damaged dantian. At the same time, it removed the cold and fire toxins and even restored the patient's cultivation. Therefore, Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan's final score was 95 points. As soon as this result was announced, the reincarnation square erupted again. Ling Qingwan, who was previously ridiculed and looked ugly, suddenly became an existence that everyone revered. What kind of skill is refining basic elixirs? Can you save people like our Immortal Fairy Qingwan? 95 points means that the dying patient has not only recovered, but has also become better than before. My goodness! This Immortal Fairy Qingwan is too powerful. Ling Qingwan lowered her eyebrows, hiding the complacency in her eyes. The elixir she refined was called Ice Fire Elixir. It was a kind of elixir that specialized in treating fire and cold poisons. And this patient's illness seemed to be tailor-made for the ice and fire pill. Wasn't it natural for her to get first place? Sure enough, the results were announced next. Whether it was in the same group as Ling Qingwan, Su Qingling or by Ziliang, their final scores were not as good as Ling Qingwan's. The patient that Su Qingling healed was evaluated by Tianguang Su to be 93 points. It was only 2 points lower than Ling Qingwan. On the other hand, Ling Qingwan's supporters seemed to have finally found something to use against Su Qingling. They could take revenge for the first round, and they started to ridicule and humiliate Su Qingling. This made Su Qingling's supporters gnash their teeth in hatred. Very quickly, the results of the top 45 alchemists were announced. But when it came to the last 5 alchemists' turn, Little Tian's voice stopped. The reason was very simple. It took time for the pill to take effect. The other alchemists had already finished refining the pills an hour ago and fed them to the patients. The patient's condition could be roughly seen at a glance. Chapter 2479. As for Mayan's group, the patients had just taken the elixir not too long ago, so the effects of the elixir had yet to fully take effect. These 10 patients were all real. But their reactions and changes after taking the elixir were only a simulation made by Tianguang Su. Therefore, on the screen at this time, it was the same patient's body that had different reactions after taking different elixirs. Of course, the effects of these elixirs would not affect the patient's real body. Time went by bit. Soon, the body of the first patient on the screen began to change. The dark brown meridians that were originally all over the body began to slowly fade. The body stopped convulsing, and even the disgusting abscesses on the surface of the body healed bit by bit. He's cured. He's really cured. Truly worthy of being Dr. Liang. This patient's condition is clearly much more serious than the previous ones. If it wasn't for Dr. Liang, how could he have been cured? This group of alchemists really hit the jackpot, to actually be in the same group as Dr. Liang. Master Qi and the others knew their place and knew their limits, so naturally they would get good results. Some people who like to think they're smart might not necessarily be the same. As soon as this person's mocking voice fell, there was a cry of alarm in the square. "Ah, look, the patient that great God Yi is treating isn't doing well." Everyone looked over, and saw that the patient who was originally lying on the bed in a convulsing coma suddenly sat up, and vomited again and again. The things he vomited out were basins full of black water, and there were even rotting internal organs mixed in it. And what was even more frightening was that the abscesses on the patient's body did not get better, but instead burst with popping sounds. Thick, nauseating yellow water kept gushing out from the sores. Cultivators lived in this world where the strong preyed on the weak. Most of them were used to seeing tragic and bloody scenes. But seeing this scene, they still couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts, and frowned. This patient was already miserable enough, but now it was even more miserable. On the other side of the high platform, the doctors did not leave. Seeing this scene, they all shook their heads. TSK, if it was like this little girl messing around, this patient would have already breathed his last. Yeah, look at him. His internal organs are obviously damaged, and all the meridians in his body have been corroded and severed. Even a god wouldn't be able to save him. Fortunately, this is only a simulation in Tianguang ruins. If a patient were to consume this kind of elixir in reality, wouldn't that be harming their lives? After condemning Mu Yan, these doctors smile and compliment Dr. Liang. Dr. Liang's medical skills are truly superb. This patient's illness is obviously beyond cure. We thought about it again and again, and we only felt that it was impossible to use pills to save him. I didn't expect that Dr. Liang would even think of a pill refining plan for them. Hearing the compliments from the surrounding doctors, Dr. Liang's expression didn't change and he only snorted coldly. There's nothing wrong with the phrase, quack doctors mislead people. You look down on doctors just because you know how to refine some pills. You think you're invincible. Such a fool doesn't have the qualifications to treat patients. Dr. Liang's words were neither loud nor soft, but it was loud enough for most of the people in the reincarnation square to hear. For a moment, the mocking and cursing of Yap Liang Qin were unbearable to the ears. Liang Chen's army was so angry that their faces turned purple. Their bodies trembled, but they endured it and did not say anything. Some people couldn't help but want to curse back, but they were all pulled back. Chapter 2480. You've forgotten the iron rule of Liangqin's army. We can't make meaningless quarrels with others just because we have more people, so that outsiders won't think that we're bullying others. Our Liangqin's army has quality. Moreover, do they really think that great God Ye's face is that easy to slap? Ling Qingwan slowly walks to Mayan's side and whispers mockingly in her ear, "How does it feel to be condemned by thousands of people?" Mayan raises her head and looks at her coldly. Ling Qingwan thinks that her expression is anger from embarrassment, and the smile on her face becomes more carefree. "Yi Liangqin, a mortal waste like you doesn't even have the qualifications to compete with me. Obediently submit to me and hand over the Medicine King's inheritance, and I might let you live. But who told you to not know what's good for you and insist on competing with me?" Ling Qingwan's smile becomes distorted when she thinks of the humiliation of being trampled on by Yi Liangqin these days. Do you think that losing the second round of the pill competition is the end? He, you're wrong, this is just the beginning. Very soon, I'll make you lose all standing and reputation, and lose everything. At that time, I'll still be Jun Mayan, and I'll still get the Medicine King's inheritance, while you're just a street rat that everyone wants to beat up, ha ha ha. Mayan waits for her to stop laughing, then slowly says, "That patient, did you specially arrange it?" Ling Qingwan's laughter stops abruptly, and she stares at the girl in front of her in shock. The corner of Mayan's mouth slowly hooks up, 10 kinds of extremely terrifying symptoms of illness, just to cover up the cause of death. Jun Qingwan, it's not easy to find such a patient and arrange for him to participate in the pill competition, right? Ling Qingwan's face turns green and white. After a while, she forces herself to calm down and says, I don't know what you're talking about. She quickly turns around and leaves. Compared to her high spirits earlier, her mind is in a mess now. What does Yiliangchen mean? 10 kinds of symptoms, just to cover up the cause of death. She really knows, or is it just a wild guess? No. She must be talking nonsense just to scare herself. Yiliangchen is an alchemist, how would he know how to diagnose illness? Whether it was in the immortal cultivation continent or the immortal cultivation continent, doctors and alchemists had always been completely different, but they also complemented each other. Since ancient times, it was not that there had never been someone who cultivated both medicine and alchemy, but that was only after many years of immersion. Otherwise, they would only be biting off more than they could chew. This Yiliangchen in front of her looked to be in his 20s, but his skill in alchemy was something that even Ling Qingwan had to pinch her nose and acknowledge. How could such a powerful alchemist, the top ranker of the coiling dragon board, know medicine? Ling Qingwan looked at the screen and saw that the patient who swallowed Yiliangchen's pill was now covered in filthy and smelly blood. After a long time, he didn't move at all, as if he was dead. Only then did she feel relieved. That's right. Yap was just bluffing. In fact, let alone saving the patient, Yap Liangchen couldn't even find 10 signs and solve them like Dr. Liang did. Right at this moment, another wave of commotion surged out from the rebirth square. What's going on? The patient Master Qi was treating seemed to be in great pain. He fell down. Look! The patient Master Ouyang was treating is also dying. Chapter 2481. Holy shit, what the hell is going on? Xiao Tian, participating alchemists Qi Hongwen, Zhang Rini, Wang Zongliang, and Li Xin died while treating a patient. Their scores are 0 and they are eliminated immediately. On the stage, Dr. Liang abruptly stood up and said in disbelief, "This is impossible." Even the alchemists felt as if they had been struck by lightning, all of them in disbelief. The people in the reincarnation square were also stunned. What's going on? Didn't those patients start to recover? Why did he suddenly die? Didn't they say that Dr. Liang's diagnosis will never be wrong? Seeing that the 4 alchemists in the same group as Mu Yan have 0 points, Ling Qingwan goes back to devouring again. He felt a little more at ease. This was her original plan. Yiliangchen was eliminated in the second round of the audition because he had treated a patient to death. Previously, Lu Yu had secretly told her that they had bribed the steward of the Tianguang Ruins Appraiser Treasure Pavilion to know the content and rules of the second round of the audition. After that, he followed the clues and found the patient with the most serious condition and did something to him. His actions were so secretive that even Tianguang Ruins couldn't detect any problems. At that time, Yiliangchen had already become the champion of the pill competitions for rankings. Lu Yu knew that Yiliangchen's army would definitely match the most powerful national physician, Dr. Liang, with Yiliangchen. For the sake of fairness, the patient diagnosed by Dr. Liang was definitely the one with the most serious illness. Sure enough, everything was as they had expected. When Yiliangchen's army was celebrating the fact that they had chosen the best doctor for their idol, Ling Qingwan was laughing at Yiliangchen's death. It didn't matter whether the cause of the patient's death was Dr. Liang's poor diagnosis or Yiliangchen's failure in alchemy. A loss was a loss. After all, luck was also a kind of strength. After that, Yiliangchen's actions pushed him into the eye of the storm and he was ridiculed by thousands of people. In the end, she felt even better than she had expected. Ling Qingwan took a deep breath, and the corners of her mouth slowly blossomed into a complacent smile. That's right, no one had discovered the cause of death. Because that thing was personally hers, Just as this thought flashed through her mind, suddenly, an earth-shattering scream almost penetrated her eardrums. "Ah, look, he's alive! He's alive!" The one who screamed was a girl from Liang Chen's army. While everyone else was looking at the dead patients on the screen, only her eyes were staring at the last one without blinking. Yi Liangchen had never been defeated. He had never disappointed them. This time, she believed that it would be the same. A miracle had happened right before her eyes. The patient who was lying in a pool of blood, as if he had been dead for a long time, slowly got up. Everyone was startled by this cry and looked at the last light screen. Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. The patient, who was covered in pustules and vomiting blood and internal organs, wiped away the blood on his face in a daze, revealing a wrinkled but clean face. Bright and clean. The people in the reincarnation square suspected that they were hallucinating. How could his face be so clean? Just now, this person's face was densely packed with pustules, and thick yellow liquid was constantly flowing out. Even if the pus was cured, it should be full of scars, right? Why wasn't there a single trace left? Chapter 2482. Damn, I'm a little dizzy, let me clear my head. So now, the patient diagnosed and treated by Dr. Liang died, and the same patient, Ye Liangchen, used her own method to concoct pills and saved him? That, who can tell me? How do alchemists diagnose? Do they know how to treat patients? Did I have some misunderstanding about the profession of alchemist? I've been an alchemist for dozens of years, I'm starting to doubt my life. Damn. Could it be that Ye Liangchen's medical skills are better than Dr. Liang's? Someone immediately ridiculed, "Don't be happy too early, be careful of being slapped in the face later. Dr. Liang couldn't cure a patient, do you really think that your Ye Liangchen is a god? Maybe he'll die later." However, as soon as this person's voice fell, little Tian's voice was very timely. The 50th person to complete the competition is Ye Liangchen. Dr. Liang's diagnosis is none. Ye Liangchen concocted pills and cured the patient's illness. At the same time, the patient's body was cleared of impurities and his cultivation was improved. So Ye Liangchen's final score is 100 points. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone's expression was dazed. Even little Tian's following announcement could not be heard in their minds. Now, the first 2 rounds of the competition have ended. The ones who advanced to the second round are Ye Liangchen, Jun Qingwan, and Su Qingling. We respectfully invite the 3 of you to the Lan Family Empire's Cloud Phoenix Hall tomorrow morning for the final competition. The other 47 participating alchemists will be given different levels of rewards according to their ranking. Mu Yan smiled and gently turned the hidden void spirit ring on her finger. It's finally the finals. She also wanted to see with her own eyes what this woman who claimed to be Di Ming's fiancée and almost killed her several times is. I don't know if he will be unhappy that I killed an emperor's old lover. Thinking of this, she looked at Ling Qingwan with a faint smile. When she saw Ling Qingwan's twisted face and gritted teeth, the jealousy in her heart was slowly replaced by unbridled arrogance. Who cares if someone will be angry? She must kill this bullshit fairy who dared to pretend to be her. Right at this moment, the square that had been silent for a long time finally burst into an uproar. Ah, God Yi, I'm really kneeling before you. Is there no profession in this world that you don't know, and there's no ranking that you can't slaughter? What, Look at how you're making a fuss out of nothing. You look like you've just joined Liang Chen's army. Calm down, calm down. These are the basic moves of Guru Yi. Sob, what kind of god am I worshipping? It's great to be able to join Liang Chen's army. Great God Yi, I love you for 10,000 years. Listening to the cheers of Liang Chen's army below, the corners of Mayan's mouth raised into a genuine smile. She had been working hard, wanting to climb higher. Apart from wanting to become stronger to protect the people around him, he also wanted to disappoint the people who supported him. Say, it would be great to join Liang Chen's army. I also want to say that it's great to have the support of your devourers. After informing little Tian about the leaked contents of the pill competition, Mu Yan plans to withdraw from Tianguang ruins. Wait a moment. Chapter 2483. Mu Yan turns around in astonishment and sees Dr. Liang walking towards her with a frown. He stares at Mu Yan for a long time, and only after a long while does he say, "What was wrong with this old man's diagnosis?" Just now, Dr. Liang thought about it for a long time, but he couldn't figure it out. He had clearly found the patient's 10 ailments, and he had even prescribed the right medicine for them. He even considered the conflict between the medicines used for the different diseases. Dr. Liang felt that even if he couldn't cure the patient, at least it wouldn't be a problem to save his life. But the result was, Mu Yan smiles lightly and says, "Dr. Liang, your diagnosis is correct. There are indeed 10 diseases on this patient, and the most serious one is that his dantian and meridians are corroded. Therefore, in terms of appearance, your diagnosis and the Dan prescription are not wrong. It's even more perfect than most of the Dan prescriptions created by the alchemists." Dr. Liang stares blankly. He didn't expect that he had just ridiculed and humiliated this little girl in public. Now that he has been ruthlessly slapped in the face, not only is this little girl not angry, she even says that his diagnosis is correct. Dr. Liang only feels that his cheeks are burning. But in the end, he is still devoured. He is even more obsessed with medicine, so he can't wait to ask, then why did the Dan prescription I gave not cure the patient, but let the patient die instead? The smile on Mu Yan's face slowly recedes. After a long while, she says in a low voice, "Because someone wanted me to lose, so they planted a devil goo in the patient's heart. The devil goo is invisible and traceless, colorless and odorless. Neither divine sense nor pulse reading can detect it. But once the Dan enters the body, the exhausted spiritual power is replenished, and the devil goo will grow rapidly, devouring the patient's heart with lightning speed." Dr. Liang inhales a breath of cold air. Devil goo. It's actually a devil goo. It's actually a devil goo. Oh, right, because there's a goo, you added those 3 medicines. Girl, you're really a genius. Aw. You didn't take the pulse, didn't look closely, just used your divine sense to know that there's a devil goo in his body. How can a genius like you go to alchemy? You should study medicine, girl, let me tell you. Mu Yan didn't expect that this seemingly serious and inflexible Dr. Liang was actually a chatterbox. Once they had resolved their differences, he would capture her and force her to give up on alchemy and become a doctor. She was so frightened that she hurriedly left Tianguang ruins. Soon, the next day arrived. The finals of the alchemy competition had officially begun. At the same time, Di Ming had arrived in front of the mirror of heaven and earth and was about to enter it to head to the cultivation land. Di Ming, wait. Han Chujiu hurriedly came over and grabbed him. My apprentice's match has started. That shameless woman actually entered the finals with her. What if she bullies my disciple? Right now, immediately, go and support my precious disciple. Di Ming frowned and said coldly, I have something to do. When I'm free, naturally. No. By the time you have time, it will be too late. Han Chujiu stomped her feet in anger. Even the little bit of respect she had for Di Ming was thrown away. You must immediately go and support my apprentice, otherwise, I will not let you go. Let me tell you, in the future, don't expect me to provide you with medicinal pills from the polar domain. As he spoke, Star Wolf also hurried over. Chapter 2484. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful, no pop-up window free reading. Mu Yan turns around in astonishment and sees Dr. Liang walking to her with a frown. He stares at Mu Yan for a long time, and only after a long while does he say, "What was wrong with this old man's diagnosis?" Just now, Dr. Liang thought for a long time, but he couldn't figure it out. He had clearly found the patient's 10 ailments, and he had even prescribed the right medicine for them. He even considered the conflict between the medicines used for the different diseases. Dr. Liang felt that even if he couldn't cure the patient, at least it wouldn't be a problem to save his life. But the result was, Mu Yan smiles softly, "Dr. Liang, your diagnosis is correct. There are indeed 10 diseases on this patient, and the most serious is that his dantian and meridians are corroded. Therefore, in terms of appearance, your diagnosis and the Dan prescription are not wrong. It's even more perfect than most of the Dan prescriptions created by master alchemists." Dr. Liang stares blankly. He didn't expect that he had just ridiculed and humiliated this little girl in public. Now that he has been ruthlessly slapped in the face, not only is this little girl not angry, she even says that his diagnosis is correct. Dr. Liang only feels that his cheeks are burning. But in the end, he is more obsessed with medicine, so he can't wait to ask, "Then why did my Dan prescription fail to cure the patient, and let the patient die instead?" The smile on Mu Yan's face slowly recedes, and after a long while, she says in a low voice, "Because someone wanted me to lose, so they planted a devil goo in the patient's heart. The devil goo is invisible and traceless, colorless and odorless, and can't be detected by divine sense or pulse reading. But once the Dan enters the body, the exhausted spiritual power is replenished, and the devil goo will grow rapidly, devouring the patient's heart with lightning speed." Dr. Liang inhales a breath of cold air. "Devil goo. It's actually a devil goo, so it's a devil goo. Oh, right, because there's a goo, you added those 3 medicines. Girl, you're really a genius. You didn't take the pulse, didn't look closely, just used your divine sense to know that there's a devil goo in his body. How can a genius like you go to alchemy? You should study medicine, girl, let me tell you." Mu Yan didn't expect that this seemingly serious and inflexible Dr. Liang would actually be a chatterbox. Once they had resolved their differences, he would capture her and force her to give up on alchemy and become a doctor. She was so frightened that she hurriedly left Tianguang ruins. Soon, the next day arrived. The finals of the alchemy competition had officially begun. At the same time, Di Mingju has already arrived in front of the Qinquan mirror, about to enter and directly head to the Shuzhen continent. Di Mingju, wait a moment. Han Chuzhou hurriedly came over and grabbed him. "My apprentice's match has started. That shameless woman actually entered the finals with her. What if she bullies my disciple? Right now, immediately, go and support my precious disciple." Di Mingju frowns, coldly saying, "Ben Jun has matters to attend to. When I'm free, naturally." No. By the time you have time, it will be too late." Han Chuzhou stomps her feet in anger. Even the little bit of respect she had for Di Mingju was thrown to Java. "You must immediately go and support my apprentice, otherwise, I will not let you go. I'm telling you, in the future, don't expect me to provide you with Dan in the polar domain." As they were talking, Xing Lang also hurriedly arrived. Chapter 2485. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, there is no pop-up window for free reading. Han Chuzhou immediately points at him and says, "You ungrateful wolf, do you still remember who saved your and Jun Shang's life? It's my baby disciple, okay. Right now, I'm just letting this kid Di Mingju support my baby disciple, not letting him marry my baby disciple. Is this making things difficult for him? You guys are ungrateful and shameless. Xing Lang's mouth twitches, but he can't speak for a while. Until now, he still remembers the regret and despair he felt when he was infected with pi poison and implicated Jun Shang. For Han Chuzhou's disciple, his heart is full of gratitude. But Jun Shang's decision is unquestionable. Xing Lang can't help but turn his eyes to Di Mingju. Di Mingju's icy blue eyes look at Han Chuzhou with impatience and coldness. Get out of the way. Han Chuzhou firmly blocks the Qinquan mirror. No, unless you promise to immediately support my disciple and slap that scumbag and cheap woman's face, I won't let you off. Di Mingju is finally helpless. All right, Ben Jun promises you. Isn't it just a moment later to see Mayan and that damn fiancé? Wait. Yes. On the day of the finals of the elixir competition, Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing arrive at Tianlang Palace early in the morning. Thinking of what happened in the past few days, both of them feel like they are in a dream. They originally thought that asking Mayan to make a move was nothing more than a last resort. They even made the decision to let Mayan secretly take away the chaotic tower, and then hand over the 6 Stars Tower to Longting Academy. They didn't expect that what they thought was impossible to do, someone actually did it. Moreover, it was far beyond their expectations. In the first stage of the elixir competition, the results are far ahead. The entire Tingguang ruins is now in the fear of being dominated by Yi Liangqin. If you ask the people who are paying attention to the elixir competition at this moment, who do they think will win the championship? 90% of the people will resolutely tell you 3 words, Yi Liangqin. So, can the century-old reputation of their Longting Academy, and the 6 Stars Tower, be preserved? Zhou Daoyi's face shows a dazed and emotional smile. Their soaring dragon was really too lucky. To think that he would receive the protection of the emperor's fiancé. Wouldn't that mean that he had obtained the protection of the emperor? Compared to an imperial lord, a mere north-placating marquis, what was there for him to be afraid of? When Mu Yan arrived at the front hall, she saw the 2 deans of Longting Academy with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. She couldn't help but smile as she stepped forward and said, "Let's go." However, when Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing turned around and saw her, they were shocked. You are Miss June." The woman standing in front of him still had the same face, and her eyes were still the same. However, her originally unparalleled beauty had fallen by several levels. At first glance, she doesn't look like Jun Mayan at all, but more like the corner of Mu Yan's mouth curled up. She smiled faintly. "No, I'm Yap Liangqin. This is the masterpiece that 5th senior brother and I worked on for an entire morning. How is it? Awesome, right?" Luo Yu appeared out of nowhere and said with a smile, "Does my 6th senior sister look like Yap Liangqin now?" Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing nodded repeatedly. Similar, indeed very similar. It's just that her makeup skills couldn't compare with Tingguang Ruin's appearance. Therefore, even if she deliberately dressed up in an ordinary and crude way, Mu Yan's appearance was still much more beautiful than Yap Liangqin in Tingguang Ruins. Chapter 2486. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. But even if there are differences, as long as people see Mu Yan now, they will feel that she is Yi Liangqin. Mu Yan originally planned to participate in the pill competition alone this time. But thinking of the base soul pearl in Luoyu's body, she thought again and also brought him in disguise. However, before he left, another person joined in. "Miss, can I follow you to the Lan Empire's imperial palace?" Chu Tianyu bowed. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows. Reason. Chu Tianyu took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with a bone-chilling light. The man beside Jun Qingwan is Chu Xinyan's confidant, Lu Yu. Back then, he coveted my mother. Mu Yan looked at him quietly for a while. Chu Tianyu clenched his fists. Miss, I promise that I will not cause you trouble because of personal grievances. Mu Yan sneered. This kind of trash can be called trouble. All right, if you want to follow, then follow. But before you go in, ask Fifth Brother to help you change your appearance. You also know that your identity must not be exposed in front of the people of the North Marquis Mansion. I hope you will remember this. Chu Tianyu looked happy and quickly said, Miss, rest assured, this subordinate knows what to do. The Lan Empire's imperial palace was not so much a palace, but a huge imperial city. And the pill competition was held in the imperial city's largest and most luxurious Cloud Phoenix Hall. The three followed behind Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing, entering the imperial city unimpeded. But flying is prohibited in the imperial city. As they walked, Mu Yan asked Luoyu in a low voice, Shao Qi, after entering the imperial palace, is there anything strange about you? I heard from Lan Huahong that the same kind of soul pearl can sense each other. The base in your body is not agitated at all. Luoyu shook her head blankly. I don't feel anything. There was something he didn't say. He always felt that there was a disdainful voice in the depths of his sea of consciousness. It seemed to be saying, that kind of thing can be called base. Cough, an illusion, it must be his illusion. The moment Mu Yan stepped into the Cloud Phoenix Hall, everyone's gazes gathered on her. Some were curious, some were respectful, some were excited, some were resentful and jealous, and they simply wished for nothing more than to burn holes in her body. Is this the famous Yi Liangchen of Tianguang ruins? I've finally seen his true face today. God Yi. God Yi, I'm from the Southern Lands Tong family. I'm your loyal supporter. Ah. Yi Liangchen seemed to be much more beautiful than he was in Tianguang ruins. Could it be that she didn't improve her appearance after entering Tianguang ruins, but lowered it instead? You call this beautiful? Compared to immortal fairy Qingwan, she's simply an ugly freak. Listening to the noise around her, Mu Yan is a little amused. Why does it feel like I've returned to the reincarnation square in Tianguang ruins? She looked around and saw that the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall was decorated with gold and jade. Instead, it was filled with a graceful and ethereal aura. Around the Cloud Phoenix Hall, there were dozens of tables arranged in a ring shape. Fresh spirit fruits, delicacies, and wine were placed on the tables, and the entire hall was filled with a clear and refreshing fragrance. The people sitting on the tables were all dressed in luxurious clothes and had an extraordinary aura. Zhou Daoyi introduced them to Mu Yan softly. These people are the royal families and sects of the South, East, and East continents. Although they aren't the heads of the families, they are also the elite disciples of their clans who hold real power. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.